Okay, sorry, y'all. I didn't have the mic on. Now you should be able to hear me. My bad. Look, it's been a long day. Okay, we barely was about to make it. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, my bad. I was saying, yeah, we almost didn't make it today. I was fighting for my life. Oh, Lord, what a day, y'all. But it's okay. We're here. We're gonna try to get everything cranking. Like y'all, I said, I was trying to get the camera right. Um, it's been a long week, and it's only Tuesday. But happy Tuesday! I'm glad y'all made it. Let me get a few quick hellos in there, and then we're gonna zip right on through. All right. What up, Jacqueline Aggers? Let me see. Your mother said they had Mays first. I'm sorry, Mays versus the OJs last week. Anita Baker versus Diana Ross the week before that one. They even did Al Green and Johnny Taylor. They played the greatest hits and people. But hey, listen, Johnny Taylor, I like, right? You know, Who's Making Love to Your Old Lady? I like that song. All right. Um, let's see. What up, Tracy? What up, Trevor Taylor? What up, Aquila? Lawrence B. Y'all were making sure I had that sound. You turn that sound on, Calvin. All right. Um, Billy Flood said we can't catch a break. I was just saying to myself this week was wow. We haven't even had a hashtag in a minute, and then oh Lord, you scared me. I don't know what the hashtag is. Let me see. What have I missed in the last 2 hours that I've not been online? I hope ain't nothing else crazy happened. I'm gonna be real mad. Y'all can tell me in the chat if there's something else crazy I don't know about. We'll talk about it in real time. Man. Okay, let me adjust my chat because it's set to the wrong setting. All right, there we go. It's live in real time. It was on top chat. I need to hear from everybody. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and start because I started a little bit late already. So, man, Ayana J said the newest podcast episode had me rolling. I'm glad that was a fun one to do. I'm looking to have the next one actually out in like the next 3 weeks. I'm gonna try to get them out a bit more frequently, just because I keep forgetting I'm leaving y'all with cliffhangers, and then y'all be waiting for like 2 months. Like, when are we gonna get the rest? I'm like, oh, it's coming. All right, let me do 2 or 3 more, and then we gotta move on. Oh, okay, I'm referring to Ryan Gaynor. Yeah, I said the same thing. And honestly, Ryan Gaynor's not even an anomaly. This has been going on. It's just I feel like a lot of the stories that have been coming out are not being told in the media as much. And we've had that conversation a few times here, where again, they don't want another spring/summer of 2020. So they're kind of keeping wraps on a lot of these stories that come out in regard to people being killed by the police unarmed. But we'll get to it. I'm going to actually push that a lot further into the chat because I said, let's start with some happy energy at least before we get into everything else. Okay. So, few things really quick. Like I said, next book club session, March 25th, we are reading The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. We're going to be covering chapters 5 through 11, right? So if you missed the first section with chapters 1 through 4, you're still welcome to join us. And even if you still want to share your 2 cents on what we talked about 1 through 4, you're more than welcome to do so. Book club is pretty, unconventional. We chopping it up. We're covering the book, but we're having a good time. It's not a classroom, right? So, there's room for all opinions. So if you are interested, join us on March 25th. I will make sure to have a community tab update with the link to the Zoom, right? Also, those of you who were able to join us Sunday for the show that I did with Miss Sandy, that was a really, I think it's called Best Life. I have the link to the video in my community tab. Check that out when you get a chance. That was a really fun interview. Like I said, Miss Sandy is a close family friend, so she knows me well, right? So she was able to ask the good questions, the questions that people who only know me from YouTube might miss. So that was a lot of fun. Subscribe to her channel. She's a lot of good energy. She can sing down too. I'm rooting for her to like start posting music because she's an excellent vocalist. Like, man, so really, really dope. So check that out when you get a chance. One quick story time, and then I'm gonna get straight to business. Let me just tell y'all. One of my biggest pet peeves is like when you try to treat yourself and go to a restaurant and then the experience is not great, right? So because I've just had a very chaotic April, I'm sorry. Look, I'm looking at you trying to rush the month. Chaotic February and March so far, right? So earlier last week, I was like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to treat myself to just go out and eat somewhere nice, right? Because it's like I need to take some time to stop stressing about things that I can't control. So I'm like, I go to this restaurant, right? And it's so funny because they had a dress code. I'm like, okay, now fortunately I was coming from work and I was already like dressed up so I could just walk up in there anyway. But you know, they had the dress code and I'm kind of side-eyeing because I'm like, you see the neighborhood we're in? Talking about dress code, be for real. But anyway, so, you know, and they had the nice aesthetic on the inside. They had the person playing the piano, like all that, and the aesthetic and the candles and just very nice environment, right? And so I get nervous when I end up in those kind of spaces because then I start to question, well, how good is the food going to be? Because sometimes these places, you know, look nice. The presentation is lovely, but the food is trash, or they don't give you enough food and you're hungry when you leave, right? And so I knew I messed up when I looked at the menu and everything was a la carte. Like I've talked about this on the podcast too, but like, you want to piss me off? Take me to a restaurant where stuff is a la carte. You know, a la carte is when it's just the main dish. Like, so if you order a steak or a fish or chicken or whatever, it's just that. No sides, no nothing, no complimentary parsley on the side of the plate, nothing, just the meat, right? And so they're like, oh yeah, it's a la carte. I'm like, all right, a la carte, here we go, right? And then, you know, all the sides are like $18 and $19. I was like, see, I should have just been normal and went to someplace normal, trying to be fancy at these restaurants, spending all that. So anyway, I ordered a halibut, right? You can't mess up halibut. You just can't. It cooks very easy. It's fluffy. You season it well. Go for it, right? So I ordered a halibut. I forgot what side I got, but it was one of them overpriced sides. I think I found the cheapest one I could get other than a salad, right? And I was so pissed because, man, when I tell you the halibut, when I say no flavor, nothing. It just tasted like nothing. I was so mad. It was almost like if you could make water a food and eat it. That's what it tasted like. I'm like, y'all already charging me like $40, $50 for this little, and mind you, tiny piece, you know, little piece about this big to go on the plate because they're all about presentation. And I don't care about the presentation. I just needed to be good. I was hungry. I was trying to have a nice day, right? I still got to pay for the drinks too, right? And yeah, so I got the little halibut, and it was just, it was so bland. I was so pissed, right? Even my side wasn't hitting. And I'm just like, y'all on this a la carte. Like, stop playing with people's face. Like, all or nothing for me, okay? I don't want to do a la carte. I want all or nothing. So give me my main dish and like my 2 or 3 sides. I was so mad I had to stop at Five Guys on the way home and just get a snack because I was hungry when I left. Like, the food did nothing for me, and I spent so much eating at that raggedy restaurant. I was so pissed. Whatever. Anyway, jumping into my stories here, I just need to get that off my chest because I'm like, y'all, restaurants, people are hungry, right? The food is already expensive. Everything went up, and then you still got to tip the server, right? Let the food at least be good. It would have been different if the food was good, even though they only gave me a little tiny a la carte piece, a little tiny piece this big. At least if it tasted good, I could have made it work like, oh, that was so good. Dang, I wish I could have bought more. But no, bland water tasting halibut. Just tastes like chopping and cutting some water. Just nothing. Nothingness. And not even the good water, not even spring water, like purified water, right? Distilled. Jesus. All right, anyway, Boeing and you airlines, I need y'all to get it together here, all right? I want to read the article, and then we're going to talk because there's been a whole lot going on, and I got to fly in like 2 weeks. So I need to fix all this before I get in the air because I ain't trying to meet the Lord too early, all right? So there's a few things. Oh, God, I got a few stories here. Hold on, this is the one I want. Sorry, I had like 3 different Boeing stories in here. All right, let me go to this first one. So, pull it up. All right, Alaska Airlines flight. And mind you, this is in reference to, remember that Alaska flight where the door just blew off while they was in the sky? Because remind you, there's been a whole bunch of things happening with a lot of the planes, right? We've had planes take off and the wheels fall off, and then they got to do, you know, an emergency reroute and land somewhere else. Planes have slid off the runway. One plane landed and ended up on the wing, and all these different things happening, right? So this is in response to the plane where the door blew off because there's been an investigation. Alaska Airlines flight was scheduled for safety check on the day the panel blew off. The 737 MAX remained in service for a day after the airline's engineers concerned about warning lights scheduled it to come in for maintenance. During that period, a door plug came off in flight. A day before the door plug blew out on an Alaska Airlines flight on January 5th, engineers and technicians for the airline were so concerned about the mounting evidence of a problem that they wanted the plane to come out of service the next evening and undergo maintenance, interviews and documents show. But the airline chose, this is Alaska Airlines, and I'm side-eyeing them because that's actually my favorite airline. Listen, Delta's my number 2, but they've been tripping lately. But Alaska's always been my favorite to fly. But anyways, sticking to the point. But the airline chose to keep the plane, right? A Boeing 737 MAX 9 in service on January 5th with some restrictions, carrying passengers until it completed 3 flights that were scheduled to end that night in Portland, Oregon, the site of one of the airline's maintenance facilities. Before the plane could complete that scheduled sequence of flights and go in for the maintenance check, the door plug blew out at 16,000 feet, minutes after embarking on the second flight of the day from Portland to Ontario International Airport in California. All right. The plane landed safely and no one was seriously injured, but the incident focused new attention on Boeing's manufacturing process and the safety procedures followed by the airlines. The scheduling of maintenance check on the airline had not previously been reported. It demonstrates that the airline chose to keep the plane in service while it made its way toward the maintenance facility rather than flying it to Portland without passengers. Alaska Airlines confirmed the sequence of events, but the airline said the warnings it had on the plane did not meet its standards for immediately taking it out of service. Donald Wright, the vice president for maintenance and engineering for Alaska Airlines, said the warning signals, a light indicating problems with the plane's pressurization system, had come on twice in the previous 10 days instead of the 3 times the airline considers the trigger to take more aggressive action. Alaska Airlines had repeatedly asserted that there's no evidence that the warning lights, which could also be caused by an electronic or other set of problems, were related to the impending plug blowout. So y'all got too many possibilities in here for me. From my perspective as the safety guy, looking at all the data, all the leading indicators, there was nothing that would drive me to make a different decision, Max Tidwell, the vice president for safety and security for Alaska Airlines, said in an interview. Of course, it's called good PR. You're going to say anything that makes it sound like you didn't do nothing wrong. The airline's engineers had called for the plane to undergo a rigorous maintenance check on January 5th to determine why the warning lights were triggering based on their use of a predictive tool, rather than on the number of times the warning lights had gone off, the airline said. While it kept the plane in service, the airline did put restrictions on it following the recommendation of engineers. It restricted the plane from flying long-haul routes over water like Hawaii or remote continental areas in case of the need of an emergency landing. Okay. Extensive evidence of a potential problem with the plane had been accumulating for days and possibly weeks, according to the interviews with the airline and records of the investigation into the blowout. In addition to the flashing lights, investigators say the door plug had been gradually sliding upwards and a potentially crucial link in accumulating the string of evidence. The airline said its visual inspection in the days leading up to the blowout did not reveal any movement on the door plug. I'm going to pause there because the rest of it's some nonsense. I got questions here. Question number 1, if the warning light already came on twice, right? It came on twice. Do you really need a third one to say, okay, now we're going to take the plane in? And I'm just asking because, we're 30,000 feet in the air. We're not in a car, right? This is not like, sometimes our cars make those expensive noises and we just turn the music up because you done already paid rent, you done paid insurance, you done paid the light bill, water, gas, trash, everything else you got to pay. The last thing you need is expensive sounds with the car. You just turn the music up and act like you can't hear it. You'll come back to it later, right? But this is not that because you're in the air 37,000 feet with 200 people in it, right? So it's kind of like, y'all just said, yes, it went off one time and then it went off again, but we're just going to wait until the third time to confirm. And I'm like, interesting. And then y'all say, and as a matter of fact, we see there's a problem, but what we'll do is we just won't fly over any water, right? We won't go to the far out destinations where we can't make an emergency landing. So, we'll just keep it continental. We'll keep it in the 48, right? So that way, if you crash, you'll just crash into a metropolitan city or on a farm somewhere as opposed to the ocean, right? Crazy. And so I'm just like, okay, y'all playing with people's lives, right? And the thing too, even when they talk about the door sliding, like they've noticed the door sliding for a few days, and y'all just flying like everything good, like y'all playing with people's. I can't. Between that and United with the wheel falling off, because United had a bad week too, because they had 5 incidents since last Monday with different things with the planes. It's just like, this is what I'm talking about when they have these conversations around like deregulation and try. Because remember, I ain't saying no names, but there's a certain somebody who was plotting to even deregulate some of the rules with the FAA, right? Saying they were too restrictive, saying we need to make changes because, again, money talks, right? And I'm like, see, it's getting to the point where public safety is now starting to become compromised, right? All in the name of profit, right? Because they didn't want to take that plane to the shop because that meant that plane would have to be out of commission. Now you got to rearrange your flights. You got to rearrange and do things differently. So you might miss out on some of the revenue from that set of flights that plane could have taken, right? And then it gets interesting because then when we get to this whole whistleblower thing, right? Let me get to the whistleblower man that's no longer here. Let's see here. Is this the one I want? Yeah, this is when it gets real interesting. I was like, okay, y'all got a lot going on. Boeing whistleblower who warned of aircraft safety flaws found dead. John Barnett spent more than 3 decades at Boeing and sounded the alarm with aviation authorities in 2017 over what he said were potentially catastrophic safety findings. Right now, he went before all the councils and everything around 2019, was met with a lot of smoke, was told he was crazy, and there was going to be a hearing this upcoming June, right? And then he is no longer with us. Now, I ain't about to start stirring the pot and throwing out conspiracy theories because YouTube be trying to get people out of here. But what a coincidence. That's all I'm going to say, right? And so, interesting. That's all I'll say. But again, it goes back to what I was saying, too. Like, when you really look at just what kind of happens, especially with, like, Boeing, right? And I'm saying this as somebody who was from Washington State. Like, Boeing is huge in Washington State, right? It's Boeing, they got a few plants all over. But, they're in competition with Airbus, right? And so there's always this move to get these big giant purchases from the airlines or wherever, and then they're always like trying to outdo each other and everything, to the point where, because the profits are kicking in, now you got people trying to cut corners. So to me, it's a conversation of follow through with the airlines, and it's also a conversation with the manufacturers. But I just think people need to realize, like, this is people's lives right now. Fortunately, in the United States, you don't really hear about too many commercial airliners crashing in modern times. It was more common in the 90s. You're not really seeing it happen as much in these modern times, fortunately, because of, again, regulation and new standards. But clearly that 737 MAX or whatever that plane is has been giving problems since forever. Because then I start thinking about the 2 flights from Ethiopia that had the faulty equipment, and the training wasn't given to the people properly and everything, and you just set them people up to go die because you didn't want to spend it. Like, man, it's some trifling stuff. But yeah, something is fishy about that whistleblower, and that's all I'm gonna say. Something don't add up with that one. Y'all playing in people's faces. Anyway, let me read some comments real quick, and then we're gonna shift to a few other things. I have so much, so hopefully we can get through it all, but we will see. Yeah, I really got to fly in like 2-3 weeks. I need the planes to be correct. Don't let me get on a plane that then had lights blinking and beeping for 3 weeks. And y'all talking about, well, we just needed to blink a third time. Why are we waiting for the third time? The third time is when the plane go down. Like, man. I'm going to have to take the Greyhound all the way to the West Coast. All right. Why am I acting like I can't see? Okay. What up, seeing the sunset? Ayana J said, I don't know where you find the energy to do all these things. The way I just go to work and come home and go straight to bed most days, that sounds heaven sent sometimes. But unfortunately, you got a lot of stuff going on. You got to kind of be on it. I started taking like more magnesium and stuff to just kind of keep my energy up. But yeah, I'd be tired sometimes. I ain't gonna lie. I'm a little tired today, but we're gonna be all right. Tyler Hackman said, food must be seasoned like most things. That's all I needed was just, if it would have just been seasoned, I could have made it work. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you don't get enough food, you can manipulate it and make yourself full. You just eat a little bit slower. You slow down. You take a few more sips of the drink you got and try to stretch it out. But it was like the food didn't even taste like nothing. And I'm looking at the price that I'm about to pay, right? And mind you, Piano Man is over there just playing his heart. And I'm like, how come the food ain't matching the music? Like, oh, don't get me started. I ain't gonna say what place it is, but man, because maybe other people might have had a better experience, but just I was so pissed. I will say the desserts they had looked really good, but by then I had already went way over my budget with the a la carte halibut, so all or nothing. Didn't get no dessert. All right, let me see. Charlene McKinney, wheels dropping. Yeah, that's scary. The wheel freaking lands, and I think it tore a car up too when it fell out. But that's some scary stuff. Son Beauty said, I watched a Frontline documentary a few years ago showing how shambles the airplane maintenance system is for commercial airlines. So I'm not surprised of the issues that are arising. And it's not even just limited. It's not even just limited to the airline. There's so many different things when we're talking about what's happening with the railroad, all these different things where they're cutting corners for profits, right? Cutting corners, trying to get around different things. And I'm like, you're getting to the point where you're hitting that slippery slope of now it's starting to become a question of public safety. Fortunately for the plane where the door blew off, nobody was sitting in that seat by the door. They were in the seat by the aisle, but nobody was at that window seat, because I guarantee you, had somebody been in that window seat, they would have been sucked out the plane, right? Because it's happened many times before. Or maybe I'm mixing my planes up, but yeah. Too much. Poison Ivy said, y'all be getting your bags back from Delta. I've flown Delta Air France 3 times. Each time my luggage was destroyed, never again. I told y'all that story when I had to go to my uncle's funeral. And mine, sum it up, because I already told this like 2 lives ago. I don't remember if it was Delta or not, but I just remember I had a carry-on bag because I was going to my uncle's funeral. And it was one of the puddle jumper planes because I was only going to Savannah. In flying hours, that's just down the street from DC. So, we were on a smaller plane. The bag couldn't fit in the overhead, so they made me check it under the plane. Okay, cool, right? Get off the plane. Somehow, I don't know how this happened, because I had a one way from DC to Savannah. Somehow my bag is in Charlotte. I was like, man. And the bag didn't get to the house until after the funeral, so I had to go to the funeral in jeans and what I wore on the plane, like crazy. A mess. All right. They said the whistleblower was saying that the problems with the planes were deliberate. And listen, you got a lot going on. Like, man. All right. Oh, don't run up my blood pressure. Has anyone seen the flight simulations of these MAX crashes? I don't want to look at that. I told you I gotta fly. I already got to think happy thoughts while I'm flying, right? I told y'all my trick to stay sane on the plane when it gets too turbulent. I just look at the flight attendants. Like, as long as the flight attendants are good and they're pushing their cart and pouring the Pepsi and everything while the whole plane is shaking, and as long as they're good, I'm good too. But as soon as I see them go to the back and strap up in that seat with they got the cross seat belt. We don't even get that on the plane. We just get this little waist thing so we can still hit our head on the front seat in front of us. But they got that cross suspension seat belt, like some Space Jam Power Ranger type stuff, right? When they get in that seat, that's when I start being like, all right, okay, all right. And then I start doing statistics in my head, like, okay, well, you know what? You got a better chance of being struck by lightning, bit by a shark. Struck by lightning, bit by a shark. Okay, you don't know anybody that's been struck by lightning or bit by a shark, so you're in good hands from now. Like, I start thinking, man. Okay, I want to move on because I got. Oh, this is gonna be real quick. Y'all stop recommending these shows for me to watch. That y'all make. I got beef with y'all because y'all sat there and had me watch Love Is Blind, right? I'm not gonna speak on it too long, but if you've seen the show, mind you, they're like 6 seasons, and I'm late to the party. It's this show where people date in these different, like, you go in a room and you talk to somebody from another room and you never get to see what they look like, and you only date through communication. Now, the premise does have kind of a cool idea where it's like you get to just know a person for who they are, not just how they look, right? Cool. I get that. But my beef with it is it all happens so fast where I guess they do the dating in the pods for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then somebody got to propose to the person. Like, you're not even dating to just get in a relationship. You're dating to get married, right? So it's like you're talking to a stranger behind door number 2 for 2 or 3 weeks, and then if you've heard enough, now all of a sudden you're getting on one knee proposing. And so then the next phase is then they move in together, right? And they have like 2 or 3 weeks to live together before they get married. That's the show. So I sat there and I binged through season 6 because I had one day to finally just sit still and breathe. Let me tell y'all, I don't know how y'all do it. There's a reason why I don't like shows like The Bachelor or what's the other one? There's one that comes on with the black people. What's that shit? Y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't know what it's called, but one of them shows, Ready to Love, right? You get all these shows where it's like competitions and you're talking to 15 people at a time, but you got to make that choice and lock with someone. So I sat and watched this thing, right? And I watched these people propose, and I knew most of these couples weren't going to make it because the foundation ain't look strong enough, right? And that Clay and AD, now that's the couple that was stressing me out. That's because that was like the one black couple on the show, right? And so I sat there and watched this thing. I was trying to root for them. I really was. I was like, but you kept seeing all the red flags, just like when we was talking about with the Who the F Did I Marry girl, right? Red flags again, red flags galore, like enough flags to have an Olympic opening ceremony. And so what got me is that they made it to the wedding, right? They have, put this in perspective, right? They moved in together, all good to go. Mom and dad done flew in. They get to the wedding. She's walking down the aisle. They got the music playing. He's standing there. Everything is great. She says, I do. And then when it's his turn to say, I do, after he's had all this time to think about it. He talking about, oh, I can't do it. I'm gonna go to therapy. Right now, you gonna wait till like what? You had time to think about that before we got to this part. There were so many moments where you could have just said, never mind. But no, you sit there and wait. We didn't have the bridal shower and the bachelor party. And oh my God, man, I was too done. They done went to fittings and tuxedos and dresses and parties. And like I said, the parents then flew in. And you know, the guys' parents, I don't think, are together. So they don't even deal with each other, but they had to sit by each other, all of that. And you're going to wait until it's finally time to go and say no. Why didn't you do that in the morning before we got, like, if I was the bride, I would have been pissed. Why you didn't say this before I got dressed? Like, why you didn't say this before I probably sat and had to do hair for 10 hours? Like, whew. But I do be thinking these shows are kind of fake, so I don't be that invested. But I said, you don't got to ever worry about me going on no show like that. My coworker at my old job used to always keep trying to sign me up on these shows because she used to be like, oh, go on Married at First Sight. I was like, you about to get fired. Keep playing. But, like, man, that was wild. I said, all right, I'm done with this show. I can't do it because I was going to fight Clay for her. I felt bad for the girl. But there was enough flags. I don't think they were meant to be because he had other stuff I felt like he needed to work out because of just his upbringing and how the dad was with the mom. And I don't think he had a great example of a healthy relationship. And clearly that was something he was fighting with. But like, you waited till y'all got to the aisle. You would have been better off just not showing up to the wedding. She would have understood. They would have known, hey, the groom still ain't here. And they would have just known, everybody go home, pack it up. Let's go on. I know y'all got the receptions, but we can take some place to go. You know, somebody got to do something with this food. You want to wait till they're right there. But I don't know. I feel like she kind of knew what was up because she was just like, all right, y'all ready to go? And then her family just got up and bounced. But that's wild. Y'all don't recommend any more dating reality shows. Give me something good worth watching. Okay. That's all I'm saying. Who else was on the show? I forgot the other names. There was another couple that was getting on my nerves because the one, I don't remember what his name was, but it was a guy who I thought he was a jerk the whole time. And I said, you don't even look the part to be a jerk. I feel like if you're going to be rude, you got to at least sometimes look like a little bit of something. That's all I'm saying. I'm not a person who judges people by their looks, but you can't have an ugly personality and look questionable. That's all I'm saying, right? Anyway. Stupid show. But it was entertaining. All right. All right, I'm going to read a few comments and we're going to keep it moving. Brooke Smith said, I just think about the fact that I get into a car on a daily basis and I'm more likely to die in a car crash, and that usually makes me mellow out. I do that too with flying. And now that I don't drive as much because, you know, I do like a hybrid schedule where I only have to drive to work. Well, I don't even drive to work. I take the train. So like I really only drive on the weekends, and that's if I need to go to Virginia for something or if I need to go to Maryland. So if I'm going to visit like one of my god kids, then, or if I go visit my kids from the center, then yeah, I need to drive. But other than that, I never drive. So now I'm becoming very, very aware of driving. Like you get a little paranoid because you don't drive as much. So when you get on the road, you realize how crazy everybody is on the road, especially out here in the DMV. Listen, when you talk about DC, Maryland, Virginia drivers, in my opinion, Maryland, I'm sorry, y'all got the worst one, especially PG County. Y'all have a death wish. And it is always, what is it? It's always a Chevy Impala with tinted windows every time. Every single time there's somebody who's like right here on my bumper when I'm already going 25 over the speed limit in the rain. It's a Chevy Impala with tinted windows following. I'm like, can you get off my bumper? You like, man. I mean, they will honk at the drive-thru while you getting the food. Like, I can't go nowhere. We here. You know this drive-thru is slow. You know they still making the biscuits in the back. Ain't nobody going nowhere. We just all got to sit here till they done. Honking at me ain't gonna make nothing go faster. But man, they be having a death wish out in this city the way they drive. Like, man, especially me coming from a small town like Spanaway, Washington, where, you know, we didn't even have a downtown. Like I was saying on the show I was on Sunday, like our downtown was the little shopping center that had a Kmart and a Dairy Queen and the Mexican restaurant. Like that was downtown. So people in Spanaway never drive with like a sense of urgency. Everybody's just real relaxed and everything. We never used our horns to tell people to go. You use the horn to warn people of danger. Hey, look out. There's a deer about to run across. I got out here and it was like the cross traffic green light is going to yellow and getting ready to turn to red. And the people behind you are already honking and the light ain't green yet. I'm like, okay, like, man, I had to learn to just, I'm desensitized to it now. But that first year I started driving out here, I used to want to get out and fight every day. Like, y'all gonna stop honking at me. Because listen, I'm a good driver. I'm not like a grandpa or nothing. I am reasonable, but it's like everybody out here is NASCAR, Indy 500 all day, right? That's my mama calling me. I'll call it back. All right. What else was I gonna read before I keep it moving? Let's see. Somebody said The Ultimatum. See, there's too many shows like this. Ultimatum. You're gonna give me an ultimatum on a reality show. Please. What? Robin R said, our president is soliciting money in a commercial that just, I keep forgetting. I'm gonna have to look at my screen when I'm talking because it does give me the option to skip the ads, but I always miss it because I'm looking at the camera. My computer's here, camera's here. So I'm gonna have to just keep doing this here. My bad. Yeah, see, y'all lighting up Clay. I was too done. I just don't believe in marrying nobody after a few weeks. We're not there yet. I haven't seen your crazy yet. Like, I need to see and witness your crazy, and you got to witness mine. We got to see if our crazies can tolerate each other. Because everybody got a tick. I need to see the tick first. Like, you got a tick. That tick need to come out before I be like, yeah, I can spend the rest of my life with you. So yeah, all that lovey-dovey honeymoon stuff, that's the problem. They got them trying to get married while they're still in the honeymoon phase and everything is great and everything is you're still wild at them. Like, they ain't got on your nerves enough to be getting married yet. Like, they got to get on your nerves, right? They got to do all the stuff that, you got to get to the point where you get pissed off when you wake up and they're the first thing you see. Then let's talk marriage. You know what I mean? Like, man. Serenity 6830. Yes, the one who kept crying. That couple got on my nerves. I don't know her name, but every 5 minutes. Now, I will say that the trifling boyfriend she had when he kept talking to the black girl, when he kept talking to AD because he liked how big her butt was, and then he sat there and talked to her for 50,000 hours. I was on the girl side at that time. I was like, yeah, I'd have an attitude about that too. I understand. But man. Somebody said, forget Love is Blind. You would like The Traitors. Not that Love is Blind mess. All right. Yeah, we'll see. Yes, Magnum VA, this is live. Yes, we are live. Even though I've made an effort once I dropped the Mariah doc to do a bit more pre-recorded content because I think I actually like the pre-recorded content, but this is easier. But I like my pre-recorded content because I feel like I'm a bit more on the nose in regard to like more having heavier conversations. Okay, Oscars, I didn't get a chance to really watch because I was doing the other show. But from the highlights, Orange Man is pressed. That was entertaining. I was like, why are you tweeting about the Oscars? What, like, that dude, Orange Man be pressed. It's entertaining because he don't like nothing. The minute somebody has something to say that he don't like, he be on that dang Truth Social just going at it, right? He just reminds me of the guy that gets rejected from the girl. And because he got rejected, now all of a sudden the girl is ugly and she's out of shape and she's got a big forehead and everything else. And he was doing her a favor by even entertaining her. That's how he moves. So I did laugh when Kimmel had that joke talking about, oh, isn't it past your jail time? I said, okay. Only problem is half the people in there are Trump supporters, to be honest. Half of Hollywood, they be lying. Now, I will say I gave a side eye when Kimmel had that Michael Jackson joke and started saying the joke about the nose and everything. And I was like, but if we're going to go there, if this is the Oscars, I'm telling you right now, half the people in that room got a new face. So if we're going to do the Michael Jackson nose jokes, I mean, you could have took the mic and just walked down the aisles and could have went to every other person who got fillers and Botox and this nose and ponytail facelift and buccal fat removal and whatever they did, chin implant here, and then they took rhinoplasty #2, and then ears pinned back, and then hairline brought down, and then eyebrow lift, and then they be having so much stuff done. Some of them faces be so yanked and tight, and you don't know what you're looking at. But y'all sit here and still go with these 1990 Michael Jackson jokes, whatever. Ozempic, thank you, Tyler. I'm sorry, Charlene McKinney, and hey, baby, Ozempic, because everybody on it, right? And now everybody losing too much weight. Everybody's starting to look scary because Ozempic is working a little too well for some of these people, right? So yeah, I was like, y'all got some nerve trying to throw that joke. Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. I don't like Jake Paul, so I hope Mike Tyson stumps this man out. But long story short, Jake Paul used to be a YouTube person, and then he's become this kind of like a UFC fighter, boxer person, right? He's been fighting and laying everybody out. And it'd be making every time he win, I'd be getting mad. I don't know, for some reason, I feel like he's racist, so I root against him every time. But he is now having a boxing match with Mike Tyson, which for me, I feel like it's an ego thing. It's a thing where he can say, I boxed Mike Tyson. And in the event that he wins, he can say, I beat Mike Tyson. And I'm like, whatever. It's an ego thing. And so I'm like, Lord, please let him lose. Let him lose and let him lose bad, right? And I think people keep underestimating Mike Tyson. I get that Mike Tyson is like 57. But like I told y'all before, there is a thing called old man strength, okay? This is why I don't fight older black men. Like, I don't fight anyway, but if I had to get in a fight, the fight I'm not jumping into is one with an older black man that's over the age of 50 and weighs over 180 pounds. I'm not doing it, especially if he already has kids that are out of the house, right? You know, if he's a few years from retirement, right? Yeah, I'm not doing it. Nope, because it's just, they got some kind of magical strength that just never goes anywhere. Like, understand, these folks, like, I just think about when you folks be trying to bother like these 60-year-old black men that then live through a whole lot of nonsense, right? It's interesting because they can have lower back problems, they can have gout, they can have arthritis, scoliosis, but the minute they get in a fight, all that goes out the window. They don't have none of those problems. They just turn into, like, they will lay you out, okay? It's just something in that fist. There's just an element of solidness that they got. Like, I wouldn't mess with an old person. So to think you're going to go with Mike Tyson has old Tyson strength. It ain't even old man strength, old Tyson strength. And I think people underestimate the way that Tyson used to lay these people out in the 90s and even the late 80s. Like, that's somebody I would not want to get in the ring with. So I am hoping that Jake Paul gets a taste of Tyson. Oh, I hope Tyson lays him out. I can't wait. Right? I hope Tyson thinks about all the people who be kicking pigeons and stuff. Because, you know, Tyson, he's real connected with the birds and stuff. Like, I hope before he gets in the ring, he's thinking of all the people that be kicking pigeons when they be in the city center and everything else like that. I hope he's thinking of the pigeon that's stuck with the six-pack Dr. Pepper plastic thing on the neck. I hope he's thinking about all that when he goes in the boxing ring. Please don't lose this, Tyson. All right? In my head, it's still Black History Month, and I'm going to feel some kind of way if he loses. All right. Let me read a few comments. I have some more serious topics in here. I just said I'm going to start real light since we got to go real heavy. Queen said, all I heard about the Oscars was Divine won and John Cena. Oh, yeah, John Cena did the naked thing, I guess. Yeah. What about the children? Right? Y'all, what about the children any other time? But that was funny. I said, okay. All right. Felicia Michelle said, why do you want to be pissed off? You're supposed to be excited to wake up to the person. I'm married. Yes, you're supposed to. But the point that I'm making is because when you wake up pissed off with them, the love that you have is what makes you still put up with them, right? So I just want to see, like, when you get to that point, right? Because everything is not always sunshine and rainbows and lollipops all damn day. There's going to be the moments where you'd be like, let me just go to work early. I don't even, like, so I want to see that first. Like, that's just me. You know, now I will say I have one really good friend whose parents knew each other for 2 weeks and got married, and their parents are still married, happily married. Beautiful family, beautiful couple. They had 5 wonderful children that are all grown. That is one of the nicest families I have ever met. They're just so nice. They're just happy. They're just loving. They all play musical instruments. Just a nice family. They have dogs, and they have like the dogs that nice families have. Those dogs that are just nice dogs, right? They don't even bark. They're just loving, right? So there are some people who are exceptions to the rule. But I just know, as for me in my house, we will not be getting married after I've talked to you in a box for 2 weeks and then you stayed in we stayed in some apartment for 2 weeks. We're not getting married. I let you know that right now. Like, nah, right? Plus, you're gonna have to be annoyed with me or something. You got to understand, there might be 2 a.m. and I'm making music or a podcast, and you can be like, if you don't turn that off, like, man. All right. Somebody said the new face part. That's my thing as far as Oscars. Y'all laughing at plastic surgery and everybody in there got something done. And they're doing it at younger ages. It's not even like people are waiting until they're 50 and gravity starts hitting anymore to start going under the knife. Now they be 23 talking about they going to get fillers. I'm like, all right. All right. Let's see. Charlene said Mike is going to win. Carrie Anderson said hands. Even when I saw the clip of Mike Tyson practicing, I was like, he was like getting it in. I was like, okay, it looked like he didn't even miss out on anything. Like, he should have just went to Floyd Mayweather again. At least Floyd Mayweather is like my size. You might have had a better shot. Tyson is huge too. They're not even equally matched in body type. So just understand, them people that are real solid, even if they're short, there's some strength in all that packed up extra, whatever you want to call it, that's just compartmentalized in the body, just all kind of strength. That's a fight I wouldn't want to get into. That's when I start using my words. Man. Hey Baby said Mike has been in his Zen and mushroom bag. Let me see, era for years. So the energy will be different. Now, if it was bite your ear off, Mike, then okay. But see, here's the thing: if he's been in his mushroom and Zen and from up under beneath the treetop, sitting upon the canopy phase, that means probably if he gets punched in the face, he won't even feel it because he's so removed from reality. He's in this zenful space. So when he get hit in the face and it does nothing, and then he comes back, he get hit. When he come back around, like, you better not be there. That's all I'm saying. All right. Man. Okay, anyway, moving on. Oh, God, Will and Kate. Okay, y'all know I don't care about the Royals. I do not. That is my least. I have no interest in anything they have going, right? I didn't even know Kate was missing until I went on Twitter the other day, and that was a conversation, and then they started talking about this picture. Like I said before, I have no interest in the Royals. Everything about them, in addition to the colonizing all but 22 countries in the world and ruining the whole world, and that's why half of the stuff we got to deal with now is because of that lineage. It's just like they're not interesting to me. They are old, and I don't mean old in age, but just old in regard to like an old guard that isn't relevant in modern times. So there's just old maiden, like Tiffany Pollard on that one show, old maiden type of family. They're just stoic. Like I said before, I feel like the kids get wooden toys for Christmas. Like they don't get syrup on their pancakes. I feel like if they have cereal, it's literally actual grains just poured in a bowl of water with a hint of honey. Like I just feel like that's how dry they are because they spend so much time trying to maintain a specific image that isn't reality for the rest of us. They're just stuck in this world that just is just, who wants to be in that, right? And so apparently Kate had some kind of surgery and they said she was going to be out till about Easter. We ain't going to see her, right? People started having all kinds of questions. They're like, are her and William even together anymore? And, all the different questions they got. Or is somebody stepping out or are they divorcing? I'm not invested. I don't care. But anyway, she posts some picture and it's her with the kids, right? Now, here's the problem. In 2024, you should know that if you are somebody of that kind of stature, whether you be one of the royals, if you were, all the people who are household names in 2024, all the big A-list, your Jay-Z, Beyonce type thing, or Taylor Swift, or, freaking Elon Musk's crazy self, one of those people, like, understand that when you have that caliber of just being well known, you can't just post random things and think people aren't going to start investigating and digging, especially if they already think there's something funky going on with your existence. So people were already questioning what was going on with Kate. Some had jokes like, oh, she got a BBL or she whatever, or she's just all these random things. So they post the picture. Turns out it's photoshopped, right? Even the main publications start yanking the picture that she posted because they're like, there's too many questionable things. There's that hand that was posted and the hand ain't aligned with the shirt and everything else. And I mean, when I tell you people went and did their research, they tore this picture apart. They were able to link it to like a Vanity Fair picture and like took her face and put it right there over the clothes. I saw a TikTok where this girl somehow paid attention to some event they were at months ago and was looking at the kids and what the shoes were, or the kids. They're looking at the shoes that the kids had on and the clothes and the leggings that Kate had on. And this girl was somehow able to piece this all together and say, these are those same outfits, but they just changed the color. And I'm like, y'all are really invested in this crap. Like, don't talk about me and Janet Jackson ever again. I just listen to the girl music. I'm not casing out where she's going tomorrow, but like, Lord. And so, so like, they done figured out all the stuff, and it turns out like the picture's fake. And so, boom, there's all this smoke and everybody's going in. And then she releases a statement and she's like, oh, well, I like to edit photos sometimes. So I'm like, Kate, when do you have time? Tell me all about the equipment you like to use. Now you're just up here lying. Like, that is a family that since when? We ain't ever seen you with a phone. I don't even think we've seen a phone in your hand, not a camera, no anything. Because every time we see you, you got to keep correcting that little boy that be sticking his tongue out at you when y'all at public events. Remember they had that coronation event or something? And I don't know the little kid's names, but the little boy was showing out, and she was trying to correct him, but all the cameras are on her face, so she can't she sit down, and he was that, and I was like, and she couldn't do nothing. Sit down, all right. I'm trying to you can't even do that little. You can't do any of it because 20 cameras on you, right? So I ain't ever seen her holding a camera. I haven't seen her with no Polaroids, nothing. But all of a sudden, she's Miss Photo Editor galore, right? Specializes in VFX. She's gonna be working at Paramount Plus next month. Okay, so I don't know. And what's interesting, if they were smart, they would have just never put out a picture. Sometimes the best response is just don't say anything until you're ready to actually speak up. So now all you have done is created a space where people have even more questions. Now they really want to know, well, why are you hiding and faking pictures? Why you couldn't just get your kids together and take a picture? So I don't know if she done went and got a facelift and she's just waiting for everything to settle. Who knows? Hell, her and William might be fighting. He might have laid her out on accident. Well, not on accident. He might have laid her out and she had to go recover. Who knows? I'm not trying to make fun of that, but it could be a reality, right? Them royals got enough stuff that they cover up. But the part that I found interesting, I saw an article where it was saying Megan, the one that ain't in the crew, that was the girl from here that married which the redhead. She married the redhead brother, who's now also over here. They just got on the plane and said, we out. I saw some article where they were saying Megan should speak up for Kate. And I said, well, why? Because I don't follow the royals, but I do remember how they were treating Megan, because that little hint of blackness she had in her made her all of a sudden just unqualified to be a royal. And they gave that woman smoke and everything else under the sun. And she's been public enemy over there to the Brits, the ones that are really pressed about the royals. So why would she go out of her way to say anything when Kate ain't said nothing in her defense? Y'all always want to put the burden on black folks to fix y'all problems. Absolutely not. But like I said, that is not a life that I would want to be a part of. It doesn't seem enjoyable. That's why it was interesting when, Megan married, what is that boy's name? What's the boy's name with the red hair? Somebody tell, what is his name? It's not William, because that's the oldest one. Harry. And then Charles is the dad. Yes, okay. Gotcha. Right? Yeah, when she married Harry and they were having all the articles talking about, oh, this is the dream of young black girls all around the world to be a princess. I said, not in that family. Not in that family where they're going to keep her cooped up in the room all day. She can't go nowhere, can't do nothing. Everything she does is going to be judged by the masses, and they're going to think she's not good enough because she come from a black mama that was from LA. Who wants to be a part of that? And clearly it didn't work out because they jumped ship. Now they live in somewhere, somewhere off Crenshaw, right? So there's that. Talking about take up for Kate. No. Man. All right, let me read a few comments, and then I'm going to actually shift energy here. Now that we've gotten through all the fun stories, it's going to get a little bit heavier, but we got to have some honest conversations on here. All right, so Owen said, do you watch old or new TV shows? I don't get to watch a lot of stuff. I always have to play catch up. But, sometimes I'll catch the specials. Really, anything that's modern that I'm watching is probably 2020 or Dateline. I like all the stories about the husband or the wife that killed a spouse for the insurance policy, because it's always some trailer park type stuff. Like, you killed your spouse for a $20,000 life insurance policy. What? That's okay. But so I watch stuff like that. Whatever specials they have. I watch a lot of documentaries. Right. I keep up with the movies. I'll always catch a movie. But as far as shows, I don't have a show that I'm tied to. Maybe Abbott Elementary might be the only one. But there's not like any other shows where I'm locked in. When American Idol was still on TV, I did like that show because it was a different kind of humor. But that got canceled like a year or two ago. So there's not like a show right now that I'm locked in with. So most of the stuff I'm watching, if I get a chance, is like reruns or something throwback. Yeah. Or I'm such a dork. The Smithsonian Channel has a show called Aerial America. All they literally do is get a drone or a plane and just fly over the states. And I'll be sitting there watching marathons. They'd be like, okay, today we're flying over the Cascade Mountains. And to the right is Mount Baker. And to the left is Mount St. Helens. And if you look over to the east, there's Mount Rainier. And if you look behind it, there's Mount Adams. And there's Olympic Peak and Glacier Peak. And I'd be sitting there just glued in, watching. And as they leave from the Cascades, they're now going into the Yakima Valley. I'll be tuned in. It's the most boring show, but I just be like, the geography bee dork, social studies kind of kid in me is glued in. I don't know why I'd be watching that. Or Animal Planet. I'll stay watching the lion go and fight the hyena, and then out of nowhere, here come the elephant stumping on everybody. That's my kind of stuff. All right. Somebody said, yes, the royals are boring. I haven't cared about the royals since Princess Diana. And I really didn't know who she was, honestly, until she passed, unfortunately. And that was because I was in Europe when she passed. So living in Italy when that happened, it was like almost a holiday over there. Exactly. V Mosby said, folks are too invested. I didn't think it was that deep. I was like, the fact that people noticed that they hadn't seen her in a while. I said, well, what does she do to be noticed anyway? I guess, man. And then all that money they got, y'all couldn't pay somebody to do that. Y'all could have had an NDA. Listen, we about to pay you $50,000 to make this fake picture, and you better not say nothing because you saw what happened to Diana. So don't play with us because you know the world's be taking people out. So I don't understand why they didn't just have like NDA thing. They got Kate up in the attic over here on her iPhone 12 trying to fix stuff. The iPhone 12 that's been gutted and vetted, so you can't have too much access and can't get hacked. But all right. Let's see. Exactly. Megan shouldn't have to say nothing. I wouldn't have said nothing. Calvin, have you seen the animated Max show called The Prince? It's about the royals and it's hilarious. I have not. Maybe I'll add. Oh, you said it's hilarious, right? So it's probably not a real show. It's kind of like a parody. Maybe I'll check that out. But if it's the real royals, I don't watch that. Okay. Where are we at here? Thank you, Billy Flood. What black woman wants to be a princess in the family that originated slavery? What? Yeah, let me go join that family. We're gonna have a great time together. Anyway. Somebody said, have I watched Psych? No, I haven't seen it. I know that show, but I haven't watched it. Oh, see, I got this. We'll do TV shows later. I got enough stuff I'm supposed to be doing in real life. I really should not be spending this much time trying to watch shows. I'm behind on a million things, and y'all already about to slit my throat over this Mariah doc that still ain't out. So really, I shouldn't be talking about what I'm watching. Dynasty, y'all taking it back now. What up, Lindsay? Okay, shifting gears here. All right, Ryan Gaynor. I want to read the article and then we're going to talk. So let me pull it up. Okay. By the way, this is a bit heavier, just as a heads up, okay? I don't normally like covering these stories anymore because I felt like I was starting to. I don't want people to come to the channel and feel like it's trauma content, but I feel like these are conversations we still have to have, right? California officer shoots and kills boy 15 holding a gardening tool. Civil rights advocates call for release of police body cam video after Ryan Gaynor killed on Saturday by a deputy responding to a 911 call. A sheriff's deputy in Southern California shot and killed a 15-year-old boy who was holding a gardening tool, officials said. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department was responding to a 911 call on Saturday from a family reporting that a boy, identified as Ryan Gaynor, was attacking his family at their home in Apple Valley, east of Los Angeles. The department said he was holding a 5-foot gardening tool and approaching the first deputy, who had arrived at the scene when the deputy shot him. Gaynor was later taken to a hospital where he died. A lawyer for the family said Gaynor was a cross-country runner who had autism and said the fatal shooting did not appear to be warranted. The Sheriff's Department released 911 audio and partial body cam footage to The Guardian on Monday, but the clips do not capture the moment of the shooting, and a spokesperson declined to release additional video. On the call, a woman reported that her brother was attacking one of their sisters and trying to break a window and the door. The audio captured yelling in the background, and the woman told the dispatcher they're going to take him in. During a roughly 5-minute call, the woman said the other relatives were trying to keep their distance from him. At one point, she said, "He's talking to my dad right now. He's going to run away," and then he came back to the house. She said he also has a piece of glass. The department released 2 roughly 15-second body camera clips, but both clips end before the shooting. Footage from one deputy showed him arriving at the home where the front door was open. A man inside could be heard saying he's got a stick in his hand. Gaynor then appeared and started quickly walking out of the home toward the deputy, who pointed his gun toward the boy and shouted, get back, you're going to get shot." The deputy appeared to be walking backward, then running away from the boy, pointing his gun at him. The other clip captured that same moment from another deputy who was arriving and standing at a distance. Gaynor appeared to be holding the tool over his head, but it is unclear what he was doing as he was shot. A department spokesperson said it would not be releasing the full body cam footage on Monday and declined to say where Gaynor was shot, how many bullets were fired, and if multiple deputies had shot him. The spokesperson also declined to name the deputies on the scene and said the case was still under investigation. There are great questions as to whether it was appropriate to use deadly force against a 15-year-old autistic kid who was having an episode, said DeWitt Lacey, a civil rights attorney representing the family. We need to see the video and the moment of the shooting, but it doesn't seem like anyone was in imminent danger of or death or great bodily injury. Lacey said it appeared Gaynor was potentially hit with 3 bullets, including in his torso and abdomen. He said he was concerned that the department had refused to disclose the footage of the final moments of the shooting and the aftermath. We understand the gameship that is involved when municipalities accidentally kill or municipalities hurt and kill people unnecessarily. The family also reported that the deputies delayed helping Gaynor after he was shot, Lacey said. He said they had to give medical aid to this 15-year-old boy they just shot, and it certainly seems like they failed to do that. The sheriff's department's initial press release said deputies quickly rendered medical aid before paramedics arrived. Lacey said the family also reported that after the shooting, the family was forced out of the home while officers rummaged through the house looking for any justification for shooting and killing Ryan. In addition to his involvement on the cross-country team, Gaynor also wanted to be an engineer, Lacey said. Shannon DeCuss, the elected San Bernardino sheriff, defended the use of lethal force in a statement saying, our social safety net for those experiencing mental illness needs to be strengthened. Our deputies handle seemingly insurmountable calls daily. Most of these calls do not end in violence. However, this one ended in tragedy for Ryan, his family, and for the deputies who responded. There's one little piece left. Rapidly evolving violent encounters are some of the most difficult, requiring split-second decisions, Discus continued. While these decisions are lawful, they are awful in terms of our humanity. I feel for both Ryan's family and my deputies who struggle with this for their entire lives. The shooting comes amid growing scrutiny over how police officers and sheriff's deputies respond to people who are facing mental health crises. The San Bernardino Sheriff's Department was sued last year for fatally shooting Tony Garza amid a mental health episode. Lawyers for Garza's family alleged that he was shot a dozen times as he fled. The department has faced other recent scandals. In February of last year, a jury awarded $375,000 to a truck driver who was sued for wrongful arrest. The man was taken into custody after making a snide remark to San Bernardino deputy who stopped him outside of a grocery store. And in December, a deputy was reassigned after the department investigated a tip that he and a former deputy were involved in drug activity. There has also been growing concerns about the police rush to use lethal force against people holding objects that are not weapons. In February, the Los Angeles Police Department fatally shot a man who was holding a plastic fork. That one was wild. I remember that. Which followed a string of incidents in which LAPD officers shot people with harmless objects in their hands, including a phone, a bike part, and a car part. Lord, that was a lot. So, like I've said in many of these responses, what I always find interesting is we have seen clips of people who have had weapons, who have had knives, who have ran after police with machetes, who have had large items, who have tried to drive over police officers, who have tried to fight the police, attack the police, and any other kind of element, even if it's walking away or not complying, and they've all lived to tell about it. And the thing that was interesting about all of them was that they were all white, right? And so the issue for me is if you received a call that there's a 15-year-old kid that's having an episode, right? That means you should have been prepared for that kind of escalation, not fearful, right? And my question with that is, what are the intentions when you get there? If you get the call that there's somebody who, again, they're autistic, they're having an episode, they have a garden hoe, and you get the call that we need assistance, my question becomes, what is the goal when you get there? Like, what are you planning to do and how are you planning to bring this down? Because if you already have the gun drawn ready, right? And I am not one to advocate for how to punish somebody, but I'm like, I thought y'all also had tasers, right? I'm not saying tase the kid, but Lord, Jesus, it's like you just go straight to level 10 on everything. And then what makes it harder is because there's so much cloudiness, right, around the transparency. They don't want to release the full body cam footage. They don't want to say how many times the kid was shot. They don't want to say which officers did the shooting. They don't want to say how many officers did the shooting. They want to hide all this and say it's under investigation, right? And so that makes people question, like, well, it sounds like it's the same nonsense that we've been in, right? And that's kind of the issue that we've been running into, because when we go back and we revisit the conversation around police reform, one of the main arguments that people kept making was, you have too many police who are not equipped to handle these situations when people are having mental health episodes or whatever else is happening, whether it be a special condition, even if it's somebody that might be on PCP, because you understand when somebody's on PCP, their adrenaline is so high they can't feel anything, nothing phases them. Like, how do you move in those spaces? But right now what's been happening is when people are having their manic episodes or whatever it is that is, contributing to whatever condition they have, they're still treating the people as if they're somebody who just beheaded 10 folks and is going after the next person, right? And so they still keep using lethal force, which goes back to, again, the guy who was shot and killed with a plastic fork. A plastic fork. Not even metal, plastic. You can't even stab nobody with a plastic fork. You ever tried to get takeout and, you trying to stir the food and then a piece of the fork break in the food? You're like, I ain't even did nothing yet, right? A plastic fork. And so it just becomes, Lord. And for that family, you know what I mean? Like, they called you for help. You made things work. You killed the boy. And so that's why there was a conversation of reallocating where funds go with policing. You still have whatever goes to police, but some of those funds would be redistributed into programs and people who specialize in working with people who are in these moments. And, when it comes, again, to Black folks in general, that mercy is just never given to us. It's always lethal force every single time. You can dig. I put it in a playlist, but I feel like we'd have too many and it would be depressing if you went through all those videos. We have so many videos on people who have been unjustifiably killed by police unarmed. So many, to the point where we can't even name them all, right? And in almost every video, it's the same story. The police officer feared for their life. Sometimes the person wasn't even doing anything. They just existed, right? I think of Terrence Crutcher, right? Who Terrence was just in this, or is that Philando Castile? I'm mixing them. It's so many, you can't even keep up with who's who. The one who was just literally sitting in the car and told the officer that he had a weapon just to give them a heads up. And then the police officer still shot him in the car with the kid and the wife in the car. Like that kind of stuff, right? And so they keep having the same narrative of I feared for my life, I feared for my life. And it gives them leverage to just get away with any and everything. And I think it goes back to the fact that, again, there is no centralized approach to anything in policing. We've done a video on this where we talked about what happens with a lot of these cities that have these massive funds specifically for lawsuits where they can just buy people out, right? They can just pay off families that they've screwed over. I think that video is on the Tyree Nichols one. I can still pull the stats up though. Y'all know I love numbers. We can still pull them up. Let me see if I can find it really quick. See, I got everything saved in my phone anyway. Where is it at? Okay, here it goes. This is from January 27th, 2023. All right, let me scroll in my phone to January 27th. But long story short, the point that I'm getting at is a lot of these cities have so much in their budgets, and it's not for the police, it's for lawsuits, right? Billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars specifically just to handle the lawsuits for the people who are, hold on, this is my mama calling me. Just tell her really quick. Hey, let me call you back. I'm still doing a live. All right. My mother knows I have a YouTube channel now. She didn't find out till like a year ago. Hold on, I'm just trying to find my stats here. But yeah, they have these big budgets specifically just for paying people off because of the lawsuits for how much police misconduct there is, right? And so here we are. We have a 15-year-old who is now, he's no longer with us. And understand, when people are having these episodes, this is not an everyday occurrence. This is a rarity a lot of times, which is why people end up calling the police or calling for help, because it's something that doesn't happen often. And a lot of times people don't know exactly how to move in that moment. And especially with kids who have whatever condition, as they get older, they get bigger, right? And they do somewhat become a bit more of a danger to family members and everything else like that when it gets to that. But the fact that you have an officer who shows up and, guns drawn, trying to tell somebody to step back, you will get shot when they're having an episode doesn't do much because they're having an episode. You're expecting them to respond as a person who is well at that moment. In that moment, that person is not well. They are outside of themselves. And so for you to hold them to a standard of somebody who you think is well, and then they get the punishment of somebody who's a criminal, it just doesn't all add up. Like, that's some jacked up stuff. And then again, the lack of transparency. God, if I don't find this article, I just had it. Okay, I'm almost there. The lack of transparency. Here we go. Yes, this is what I want. Okay, so when we're talking about these budgets, I'm just going to name a few cities, right? So when we're talking 2010 to 2020, how much was paid through lawsuits? If we go to DC, $91 million, right? 8% of those officers were named in multiple payments, right? You had an officer, Frederick Onaja, who had 5 different cases. They spent $116,000 handling stuff that he got sued for, or the department got sued for. You have Anthony Campanelli, 4 different cases, $1.1 million of stuff that they had to pay off because of stuff that he did in regard to misconduct. John Stathers, 3 cases, $361,000, right? If you go to Baltimore, $41 million, 58% of the officers named in multiple payments. Wayne Jenkins, 14 cases, $9.7 million. Marcus Taylor, 10 cases, $1.2 million. Maurice Ward, 9 cases, $1 million, $1,058,000. New York City, $1.7 billion. $1.7 billion. That's larger than the endowment for most HBCUs that are not private, right? Undercover, and they didn't even name this officer. Undercover officers, C-238, 74 cases, $2.5 million. That sounds like people ain't getting paid enough if he got 74 cases and only $2.5 million was given out. Milton Pinheiro, 33 cases, $1.4 million. Peter J. Valentin, 29 cases, $841,000. Los Angeles, $215 million. 42% by officers named in multiple payments. Marcella Wynn, 3 cases, $25 million. I know that Marcella definitely killed somebody, right? Brian Van Gordon, 3 cases, $4.3 million. James Nichols, 3 cases, $3.1 million. Philadelphia, $136 million, 59% by officers named in multiple payments. Thomas, I don't know how to say this one. Liciardinello, it's something Italian. 143 cases, $5.7 million. Michael Spicer, 121 cases, $4.4 million in payouts. Brian Reynolds, 117 cases, $4.1 million in payouts. So the point that I'm making is because a lot of the money that goes into the budgets already kind of, aligns and serves as a cushion, there's never a sense of accountability because they can just continue to do whatever they want to do because they can pay people off, right? And that's the part that's jacked up. And then again, there's not a national database with policing. So if a police officer in Denver has a whole bunch of misconduct cases, but they move to DC, there's no national database to look them up and say, oh, well, they ran 3 people over with a car one time because they was mad because there was some teenagers that talked back. So they ran over some teenagers and then backed over them 2 more times. None of that is on record, right? And so there's no way of knowing, what these officers are doing. And like we said, there's no centralized way to onboard police officers. Every department has their own way of doing things. They got their own academies. There's 1,000 different standards of how they do things. And this is why you continue to see just a lack of consistency when it comes to transparency, a lack of consistency when it comes to conduct, a lack of consistency when it just comes to discipline, right? Now, this officer was fired, but who knows if there's going to be charges put out there. And then the other problem is they politicize everything. So as we came into 2020, the next big movement was, they defunded the police. And they started going with these stories of, the police can't do their jobs because they've all been defunded and underfunded, when in reality, most police forces actually got an increase. So let's go to one more article, right? So again, despite defunding claims, police funding has increased in many U.S. cities. Of the 109 budgets analyzed, 91 agencies have upped their police funding by at least 2%. Now, that was coming out of ABC News. In Los Angeles Times, the county sheriff says local residents are in danger because the funding has consequences, even though his agency's budget is up more than $250 million since 2019. Right? I'm not going to read this article just for the sake of time, but the point that I'm making, a lot of this is also it's kind of like a propaganda. You notice we've heard so much about crime as of late, and it's become a thing where crime is actually reported more in media than it's actually happening, right? Crime is actually down in most cities, but the way that things are being put out there, you would think that when you step outside, it's the purge, right? Let me see here. Despite what public record shows, an analysis of broadcast transcripts shows that candidates, law enforcement leaders, and television hosts discussed the impact of defunding the police more than 10,000 times over the last 2 years. Now, mind you, this article is from 2022, so it's recent, but it ain't that recent. So that means that 10,000 has gone up, right? Over the last 2 years, according to the Internet Archive's TV news transcripts dating back to June 2020. And the mentions aren't subsiding during this campaign season. In communities across the country like Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, and so many other places, it is this remarkable, incredible outbreak of crime, Texas Governor Greg Abbott said in a video posted on Twitter in August by Republican Governors Association. You typically see where these crimes are taking place. There's been a de-emphasis of this role that law enforcement plays. It could be defunding the law enforcement. It could be a reduction in law enforcement. And like we said, there hasn't been a reduction. So if I'm looking at this is the budget for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's total budget, right? In 2012, it was $2.6 billion. In 2017, it was $3.2 billion. In 2020, $3.5 billion. Now, this is when all the defunding apparently started. We jumped to 2023. It's gone from $3.5 billion to $3.8 billion. But the narrative has been put out there that all these police departments have been defunded and they can't properly protect us anymore. When in reality, we literally just watched that Supreme Court case say the police don't have to protect us. That's not their job. They are there to protect property. Anything else is collateral. So there's a lot of performative things happening. Even the same thing like when you look at New York and they have the National Guard in the subway system talking about, oh, the crime has just been so rampant. We have the National Guard out there and they're checking bags. And I'm like, but normally people who are doing those kind of crimes, they're not carrying big giant bags because they need to run. So now you're stopping random people who are on their way to work or random people who are traveling, random people who are tourists, and you're trying to randomly try to paint it as if New York is just out of control. I was literally just there 2 weeks ago, had no problems. Like it's... And I don't like to use personal experiences to kind of refute some of these arguments. I don't like using those because people run with those. But the point that I'm making is like, even in New York, crime has been going down for like the last 2 years and some change. But again, they shift the narrative. Now, I will say DC is another conversation. Crime is actually going up. But, you know, they have this whole political thing. And right now, what you're starting to see is, like we said, the idea of over-reporting crime. And this conversation of crime is always presented through a white lens, the lens of everybody else is out to get us. So black and brown folks and everybody else are the criminals, and they're out here stealing, and they're out here doing all the things that they're trying to do, and we must protect, and we must fight, and we must make sure everybody's safe. And so they shift the narrative, right? And so we get into the space where now everybody is fearing for their lives again because there's rampant crime, when in reality, the crime rates don't even nearly match what the crime rates were in the 90s. Not even close. And not even close to what they were in the 70s. But if you watch enough media, you would think that when you step outside, especially in Chicago, DC, Baltimore, New York, that somebody's going to slit your throat as soon as you step out on the porch. Is it negating or dismissing the fact that there is crime in every major metropolitan city? No, because we recognize that there are issues everywhere. But it's not limited to major metropolitan cities, because we can go to San Bernardino and a lot of these places in Appalachia and these rural spots that actually have a much higher crime rate than a lot of these major metropolitan cities. But a lot of folks at this point have politicized the conversation of crime and are now using it to justify why police can run rampant and do the nonsense that they do. So now, again, we have this family that, unfortunately, they needed help, not an executioner. And so now they have a 15-year-old who was on cross-country team. So clearly, this is a kid that is, you know, doing whatever they do and they're able to function and do just fine. But every now and then something happens and they tick. And rather than having a specialist who could deal with that, you go and send the person who's trigger happy. Because for some reason, all these police are scared. They're so scared. They always fear for their lives. I'm like, I ain't never seen so many people sign up for a job that they're afraid of. Sign up for something else. Like, man. All right. I'm going to pause and read some comments here. Let me see. I didn't even get to say everything I wanted to say, but that's okay. Let me see. Where are we at here? No Nonsense said, I have a young autistic son. Every time I move to a new neighborhood, I go to the police station. First, let them know that I have an autistic son, so they do no harm. So there'll be no excuses. We had to do that with my cousin, Michaela, the one I told you about. She's passed on, but she had Prader-Willi syndrome. But yeah, like the police department and everybody knew that, you know, if a 911 call comes from the house, sometimes, because Michaela would sometimes call 911, just because of just different random things, they knew not to take it seriously. Like, I'll save this story for later because we're on a serious topic, so I'll come back to the funny later. So somebody remind me to share the Michaela story towards the end. But yeah, so that is a thing that people often do. And so it's just like, yeah, that's crazy. Zeberlin said, or those who ran up to the nation's capital. Yeah, we get to them in a minute, right? Sochi314 said, was he holding a shovel, fighting his family with the shovel? The article I just read said a 5-inch gardening tool. It's still murky on what exactly it was, right? But the argument that I still have, even with that, even if he had a shovel and was swinging at everybody, y'all got ways to take him down. You know, y'all do all this hand-to-hand combat training and everything else y'all do. But then, you know, it's almost like they don't even make an effort to try the best option. They just say, let's just go shoot him and be done with it so we can go home. Like, that's the way it seems like they're moving, right? Understand, if a family is calling you for help about a relative, they don't want you to kill their relative. They're concerned about the relative. So they're trying to get the relative the best help that they know. And for most people, they know to call 911, right? That's the first thing you know to do, even when you're a little kid. You're taught, call 911 if something's going on. If grandma falls down the stairs and nobody else is home, call 911, right? You just automatically learn. If you just had a newborn and you think they're choking and you don't know, you know to call 911, and maybe they'll guide you on the phone on how to, hit the back of the baby's back and everything until whatever comes out. Like, that's reality. So the fact that they just show up trigger happy, ready, crazy. So a 15-year-old with a stick is a threat, but January 6th, again, y'all know I'm never shutting up about January 6th. Okay, so that was Philando Castile. Okay, thank you. Terrence Crutcher. I think Terrence Crutcher was the guy who, he had the car trouble, and then it was the woman officer that shot him, and the police helicopter footage caught it. I think that's Terrence Crutcher. So it's crazy. You're mixing all these people up. Elijah McClain. I remember Elijah McClain. That's the one where they gave him the stuff to try to calm him down, and then he died. And then he too was also on the spectrum, like crazy. Man. And the thing is, because they say they need training these cops they need to train these cops for mental health type situations. I don't even think it's training the cops. I think it's more so having an additional person that comes on site that already specializes in that, and they kind of serve as the consultant on what to do in those spaces. Because the problem is the police don't want to have that kind of training. They don't care. Like, I'm not trying to fry up the IQs of some police, but a lot of these folks, I'm not trying to sound horrible, but some of these people are at the bottom of the barrel in regard to just how they move and operate and do things, right? And sometimes the only job they could get was being a police officer. And so they already got all this raised, they're mad at the world, right? And then they show up, and then they pull over some smart mouth teenager that's driving their parents' nice car, and the teenager got so much mouth, now the officer's feeling some kind of way, now they roughing up the teenager and slamming them into the car. Like, you've seen that kind of scenario so many times, right? And so I don't even think there's an element of them wanting to train. They're not going to care, because as long as the cities can still keep paying people off, they can always fall back on the crutch of I fear for my life is what I had to do in a split-second decision. So it's the most that I could do, right? Crazy. Annoyed Human said it's called CIT, Crisis and Intervention Train. And apparently you need to ask for one specifically. Like, who knows this even exists until it's too late? Exactly. Most people don't know that's a thing. And then there's probably a chance that a lot of cities don't even have that, right? Because rather than spending the money for that, they said, no, we got to get more combat gear and military style equipment. We got to get those little tanks that we used to use back in LA when we were doing the war on drugs. It was like the robotic tank that could drive and just tear down the whole wall. It just drives into people's homes. We got to get that kind of stuff. Excuse me. Exactly. Tyler Hackman said all the fear mongering about crime like it's the 90s, even though crime has gone down. Exactly. Yes, no nonsense. $3.5 billion. That is 4 times the endowment of Howard University, right? Brooke Smith, have you seen how David Smith, former CEO of Sinclair Broadcast, aka Fox News Syndications, I saw that he bought the Baltimore Sun, and now he's running smear campaigns against the mayor. And you remember when Sinclair Broadcast, they had that one statement that every news network that was under Sinclair had to read, and it was kind of one of those random speeches that it's very right-wing, weird, the media is the enemy type thing, but we have standards and don't fall for the propaganda of the radical left. They said all that kind of weird stuff, but without saying it. And it was like every news station. So I know, like in Washington State, it was Como 4. And I know here in DC, it was ABC 7. Like, all of them had to read that same prompt. I was like, that is some crazy stuff. That's the problem with our media too, since it's only owned by like 6 major corporations now, either 6 or 4. So it's like everything's bought out. But yes, I saw that. And what sucks about the Baltimore Sun being bought out was like Baltimore Sun was one of the last reputable like nationwide news outlets in regard to like newspapers, right? Where they weren't compromised because they were still like, it was literally independently owned by the people of the city. So now you have, again, some wealthy person who buys it up, and they do that on purpose. It's the same reason why Elon Musk bought Twitter. It wasn't about making it a better app, because look how terrible Twitter is now, right? You see a very interesting tweet, and then you want to read the responses, but you got to go through 30 blue check marks with people who are posting their stuff to try to get engagement, because you now get paid if you got a blue check and you have engagement. So you can never even see the official response to a post anymore, right? And then the app is always crashing and everything. He did all that because he wanted to control the narrative of what's happening. And now you see him pushing all this random orange man propaganda and everything else. And again, conversations of deregulation, bunch of nonsense. Okay, 5 foot stick, not 5 inch. Okay. Avocado Queen said, Calvin, what's your response when people say black people just comply? That doesn't make any sense because even when we comply, we get shot. How many times have we seen folks get shot in the back, right? How many times have we seen people who were already cuffed and in the car and somehow still get shot? And then they lie and say the person killed himself, right? It doesn't make a difference. The thing is, when it comes to anti-blackness and white nationalism and racism, the goalpost never stays in the same place. It's always going to move, right? It's always going to move. So there's nothing black people can ever do to not be on the bad side of police, because it's a system that pretty much is designed to keep us in a specific place. It doesn't matter how much money you have, what kind of job you have, how you present yourself. Doesn't matter if you pull your pants up. Doesn't matter if you drive a Lexus or if you're on your bike. Doesn't matter if you have locks or if you got short hair, if you got waves or no facial hair, earrings, tattoo. None of that matters, right? And so people like to try to buy into the respectability will save a life conversation. And it's shown us that that's not a thing, right? Think back to the officer or the military officer. Remember that video we did on the guy? He was a veteran. And you would think in those moments, those are the people that we're supposed to care so much about. You know, you had the whole NFL thing about disrespecting the troops. Okay, so now we have a troop here who, again, is assaulted by the police and nothing happens, right? So all of that serving the country and taking a bullet for everybody's freedom, and they didn't care because he was black and we don't like the way you talk to us, right? A conversation of putting us in a specific place. I'm going to keep going just for the sake of time because I have a lot more I want to cover. But I'm actually going to use this to segue into actually, no, I'm going to stay in order and I'll come back to this other piece. Shifting gears. Now, we know the primaries are going, like we said at this point, it's Orange Man and it's Biden. Nikki had to drop out, which I already told y'all long before she was not going to be the candidate. I said Tim Scott wasn't going to be it either. Ramaswamy was not going to be it. But the thing that's interesting with Nikki that I found, in my opinion, Nikki would have had a better shot had she just been the logical candidate. But instead, she decided to be a carbon copy of Trump, right? And so she literally had the exact same policy, same platform. The only difference is she had lipstick and had longer hair, right? And so the thing about that is, you know, if the Trump MAGA cult religion, whatever they are, is loyal to Trump, even if you have the exact same policy as him, they're going to stick with Trump. They're not going to go to you. And then that's where that whole male patriarchy piece comes into the conversation, because at the same time, I hate to say it, but you're a woman in America, and this is still a very male-dominated country, specifically white men, right? So automatically, if you think white men are going to jump ship from Trump to come to you, who is also not a white woman, you're just passing because both of your parents are from India, right? They will remind you who you are really quick. And so she got reminded quickly, because what was so interesting is now I didn't agree with most of her policy. I thought a lot of it was stupid, talking about retirement age up to 70. I think not. But, right, you watched her actually try to roll out some policy and try to roll out, you know, a few different things, and nobody moved. They said that they are sticking with Trump, right? Because understand, whiteness is in the center of everything. And when we're talking about what white America and what white voters are getting behind, absolutely crazy. Even as I'm watching the primaries, just listen, when I just said that goalpost does not move, that's what I'm talking about. Like, these people do not care. It's now a religion. It's not even politics. It's not policy. They see something in that man that makes them feel good about themselves. What they see is this. He speaks the language of this. The language of, I'm mad at the world. My life didn't come together, so it must be everybody else's fault except mine. You know, I come from a space where there were systems put in place to ensure that other groups of people could never have what I have. And somehow I don't have what I want. And I'm seeing some people climb the ranks. Not everybody, because those black people, when we're talking about the wealth gap, they're still way beneath me. But you know what? The fact that I'm seeing the anomalies climb, the fact that I'm seeing a Serena Williams rack up records, the fact that, you know, Barack Obama ever got in there and his wife got in there, and the wife has a law degree. Absolutely not. You know, the fact that, you know, there's different groups of people who are somewhat climbing the ranks, doing what it is that they can do. There's a problem. We got to go back to the old way. Whiteness speaks to all of that. And so they're always going to stand behind that. It doesn't matter what policy Trump puts in there. They're standing behind him. The fact, even when you go back to Hillary couldn't even get the majority of white women to vote for her. That's how strong whiteness works. What did she get? 34% of the white women vote? Like, okay. So, you know, when the Clintons and the Bidens are not racist enough for white folks. That should just tell you how far gone white America is in regards to race. Like, that's how far gone they are. So crazy. Nikki couldn't even win in her home state. And that's what made it funnier. Nikki could have easily ran a campaign that was a little bit more logical, tried to pull in the independent voters, and maybe even possibly a Democrat or two that was so pissed with Biden that they were thinking about jumping ship, right? But instead, she doubled down on all the stupid Trump policy, doubled down and just got everything in regard to race wrong. You know, now all of a sudden the Civil War is not about slavery and America's never been a racist country. And she was pandering hard to win over that vote, and they were never budging. They sticking with Orange Man, right? Orange Man got 91 counts. He still owes $500 million to somebody. This man could have a stroke tomorrow and be in a coma, and they will still elect him if they can, right? Crazy. So like I said, whiteness is at the center of that. And then it was funny because Orange Man just posted earlier today. What did he say? My first act as your next president will be to close the border, drill, baby, drill, and free the January 6th hostages for being wrongly imprisoned. That's his priorities right now. And people will still run behind that. I said, now the people in January 6th, they're prisoners now because they went and stormed federal buildings, killed an officer, destroyed federal property, were trying to kill the vice president in the chance that they would have been able to get into those chambers. Half of the people in Congress would have had broken arms and everything. They were going to snap Nancy's neck, everything under the sun. But, you know, they're all political prisoners. And so, again, I hope them stimmies were worth it for those of you who are really still running behind that man, because he has no policy. This is a vengeance tour. If that man gets back in there, he's going to make everybody who turned against him pay. That's been his thing, right? So crazy. So even when him talking about closing the border, what I found funny with that is like there's literally a bipartisan bill to help fix some of the problems going on with immigration reform, right? There was literally a bill that was there. Democrats caved and caved to everything Republicans wanted, right? Because a lot of folks who were super, super far on the left were like, oh, this bill's a little too strict. It's a little too punitive to the so on and so forth, right? And Democrats caved and said, let's do it because we'll just go ahead and work together. And now here's the bill. What did Orange Man say? He don't want it to pass because he doesn't want Biden to have any element of success because, again, he's going to use that as his talking point when they run against each other. So, you know, rather than fixing things, he's going to use, you know, his ego and the leverage he has with his party to get what he wants in order so he has a better shot to get in office. It's kind of like when we had an opportunity to get out of Vietnam and Nixon went and stirred up stuff, right? Nixon literally went in there and stirred the pot some more just so it could guarantee that he would have a shot at winning his election. That's some wild stuff, right? You literally saw that there were negotiations and things were taking place, and you somehow found stuff out, got in the mix of everything, and here we are a few additional years into the war because you knew that if you could keep America fearful, right, then you could get people to vote for you and your nonsense. And we saw how corrupt Nixon was, right? And then it gets even funnier because now we even talk about what's going on with the RNC, right? So, you know, which is so funny, the stupidity of it all. So, you know, they had their election to nominate and select the next chair of the RNC, right? And so they brought in Laura Trump, who's his daughter-in-law, and Michael Whatley. Now, mind you, they unanimously voted these two people in. Not even any nays. Everybody, let's put them in. Yeah, let's do it, right? Put them in there. Laura already said her main priority is they're getting Trump in office. So everybody else is going to be collateral. So all the down ballot Republican candidates, you're probably not getting too much money from the RNC because all of it needs to be focused on Trump getting into office. But what makes it even funnier is then they lay off 60 people and they get rid of 60 folks. So the very people who voted them in got sent home the next day. Thank you for your service. You're out of here. You're done, right? And they're pretty much, they've compromised the RNC. Yeah, I mean, it was already compromised, but they compromised it even more, right? And so it's like you voted for the nonsense and they just fired you. Like people who have been in there for years, people who were even loyal to Trump still got fired. How stupid can you be to do? Okay, man, right? Whew, make it make sense. Whiteness is a strong thing because people, the collateral, white people are willing to let themselves be collateral in the name of whiteness and stupidity. I don't understand. I will never be loyal to any politician today. Absolutely not. There's no way. Like, and then you see, and now you're starting to also see some of the older Republicans just starting to get out the door. Like you see Ken Buck, who's like, I'm out. I can't do it no more. Which actually is interesting because now that compromises Lauren Boebert's seat that she currently has. I want to read something really quick with that because Ken Buck wasn't supposed to quit till November, right? So now this messes up Lauren Boebert's situation because remember, she almost did not get reelected at District 3 in Colorado. Almost lost. They were having a watch party and it wasn't looking good. And, they done started turning the music down and, the bowl of chips that's on the table, they started to pack up and then somehow she slipped through by a handful of votes, right? So her plan was to run for run for Ken Buck's seat in District 4 once he got out, because that district is a bit more hard red, right? She had a better shot. So that was going to be the plan. But now, let me just read the article. They'll explain it better than me. All right. Let's see. Here we go. If House Republican Lauren Boebert had simply run for re-election in her own Colorado 3rd District, she'd have been a lock to be the Republican nominee, and she probably would have had at least 40... I'm acting like I cannot read. Let's just start way over and slow down. If House Republican Lauren Boebert had simply run for re-election in her own Colorado 3rd District, she'd have been a lock to be the Republican nominee, and she probably would have had a 40% chance of winning the general election. But she made the bizarre move of deciding to run in Colorado's 4th District in 2024. Sure, the district has more conservative voters, but this meant she'd have to survive a difficult primary contest. Now her decision is suddenly looking worse. Boebert was one of several Republican candidates looking to replace the retiring House Republican Ken Buck in Colorado's 4th District. Remember, Ken Buck said, I'm out on the 22nd of this month, not November. Buck was originally supposed to retire at the end of his term, but today he announced that he's retiring next week. This will, maybe not the 22nd, what is that, like the 16th or something? This will create a vacancy that will have to be filled via special election in a month or two, and that's a problem for Boebert. In a House special election, the parties each choose their nominees. If the Republican Party chooses Lauren Boebert, she'll have to resign her current seat in the 3rd District in order to take her seat in the 4th District. This would then trigger a special election in the 3rd District, which Democrat candidate Adam Frisk could win. This could finish off the House Republican majority. This sets up the distinct possibility that the Republican Party won't choose Boebert as its special election nominee for fear of losing a majority in the process. That would allow some other Republican candidate to take office now and then turn around and run as an incumbent in the November race, which would make it even harder for Boebert to win. If all that sounds complicated, it is. But it is the mess that Lauren Boebert made for herself when she made the increasingly questionable decision to run in a different district in 2024. Did she really not foresee the possibility that with Ken Buck retiring, he might retire early? Boebert's career might have been over even before or even more quickly than what we're expecting, right? So yeah, like you can set yourself up, but enjoy, have fun. There's a lot of nonsense going on. These people are just not smart. All right, I'm going to pause and read some comments because we've been talking for a long time here. All right. All right, so careless and hateful, exactly. My thing is, at least if there was policy being pushed and we could see what it is you're going to do, then it's kind of like maybe I won't be so harrowing. But it's like I don't ever see policy. All I see is everybody's the problem and what we're cutting. You know, he also already told y'all he's cutting Social Security, right? And then you saw the Ben Shapiro piece where he was talking about nobody should be retiring at 65. And he's one of those weird ones too, that whole white alpha male or self-appointed alpha male, because they be talking all that trash and be getting beat up every 5 minutes. But this whole idea of we're so tough, we can put up with anything. Everybody's weak when they want to have human experiences like retiring and living life after 65. But yeah, pushing this whole narrative of, oh yeah, nobody should be retiring at 65, blah, 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 blah. It's all a setup to get people on board with the idea of gutting Social Security, right? And that's why you even had Nikki talking about let's raise the retirement age. So now, get out of here. Stupid. All right. Exactly. I never thought I'd see the day a president would have a mugshot and still run for president. That's the American way. Somebody said they're always on code. Exactly. Always on code. And I've said that on many lives before. Like even the way that a lot of us vote, we have to vote in the sense of harm reduction. Not even voting for what we want, but just thinking harm reduction, right? Who's gonna hurt us? Who's gonna hurt us the least? That sucks, right? And then you're also thinking, okay, and how is this demographic about to move collectively? Because we got to consider how they fall into this. Because we can't get behind somebody that's going to give us everything we want because they're not standing behind it. So that's why it's interesting, especially when I see like the reparations conversations. But then I see people like, but they're going to stand behind Trump. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Trump ain't giving us no reparations. Like I wouldn't see really Biden giving it either. But the conversation on that side, it's an absolute no. They don't even want us to know our history. There's a reason why they're trying to gut all this stuff and yank everything out of the school books and out of the lexicons and the conversations. Get people to shut up about the past so they won't be asking about reparations. Just get these people to shut up. That's the move right now. So like, yeah, there's no leverage with half these people. Like when I tell you I don't like nobody, I don't like nobody. I knew it was over when them people said they were willing to let their grandparents die if we could open the country back up for the economy when COVID first hit. And I said, y'all about to sacrifice your own grandma. Imagine that. Where are we at here? Yeah, the Republican candidates, they're not going to see any cash coming from the RNC. It's not there. They get listen, and I know that money's going to get funneled into them Trump bills. He owes a lot of money to a lot of folks, right? That's exactly where that money's going. But hey, that might actually be a good thing. All right, yeah, y'all go ahead and burn through it all. So good luck. What up, Harold? Harold, I rock with you. Harold been here a real long time. Harold been around for some years. Let me see. Coriante Rivers said, right, because who has a black agenda? None of these candidates have one. That's what I've learned. Most of them don't really have one. Some of them have things that they do, but this is why I say with like voting, I don't look at it like a marriage. Like, right, it's harm reduction for me. I'm not tied to any of these politicians. I vote for what makes the most sense in the situation that we're in, and I try to think long term. I'm not a one issue voter. Some people are. I'm not, because I feel like, yes, I really have a main issue that I want, but if the country has fallen apart and the economy crashes and collapses and things become irredeemable, the thing that I want couldn't happen anyway, right? So I try to look at things from a long-term standpoint. I just want everybody to do what makes sense for them. Do what makes sense for you, okay? As for me and my house, yeah. Oh, did I hear about the TikTok ban? That'd be interesting. That'd be very interesting, right? I don't know how that's going to work. I understand that the idea that they have is for the company to sell. They're trying to, whatever they're trying to do, whatever company that owns the US version, they just want them to sever the ties with China and sell it to a company that's American based, and then TikTok can stay. But if it's still tied to China, they want to get rid of it. But to me, there's bigger fish to fry. Whatever. Yeah, there's bigger fish to fry. And I will say, as far as voting, I think people keep moving as if we're always going to still have the opportunity to come back and fix things. And I don't think we're in that space. And that's kind of my warning for people who are like, I'm done, I'm checked out, I don't care anymore. We're not going to, if things continue the way that they're going, we've seen how wild just the last 2 years have been and how much things have just accelerated. I don't think there's always going to be the luxury and the guarantee that you can always just come back and undo this kind of stuff. Some of this stuff is being cemented and has been, right? You know, did you like look at the law? I saw the law that they just had in Louisiana, right? Did I write it down? The one where it literally, I think, just passed. And remember, we were talking about the Louisiana election some lives ago. I don't know how many lives ago, but it wasn't that long ago, a few months ago, right? And we were talking about just how crazy some of the people were that were running and what they wanted to push, right? And now we get to this new law. This is coming from ABC News. What to know about Louisiana's new tough on crime laws. Today, we bring some justice to the victims, said Governor Jeff Landry. Louisiana on Tuesday became one of the toughest states in the nation on crime when Governor Landry signed a series of bills that will keep criminals in prison longer, enable citizens to carry guns without permit, and resurrects the electric chair and adds nitrogen gas to lethal injection as methods used to execute death row inmates, right? And remember, this is the same person that also said there's a problem when people are getting out of jail because you don't have enough labor. Understand that whatchamacallit amendment also has that conversation. 13th Amendment, right? 13th Amendment that has that piece in there where, yes, slavery is outlawed unless you are incarcerated by the government, as far as the state or the federal government. So then that's why you can have people making license plates for nothing, right? That's what that's about. And so he was saying it's a problem when we have too many people getting out of jail, right? We got to get more in there. It kind of even ties back to the conversation of convict leasing. This is why we said that when you're comparing slavery and convict leasing, the mortality rate and convict leasing was a lot higher, because it was fine if you killed a convict or whatever in that space, because you could just go arrest somebody else and bring them out there, as opposed to if you had somebody who was enslaved that you had to purchase and train and get them to do everything you want them to do. You didn't really want to kill the person you enslaved because it was going to cost you money to get a new one. But convict leasing, okay, somebody dies in a chain gang. Don't worry, we already got truancy laws and laws for people who aren't working and laws for who looking at white women and laws for people who look up in white folks' eyes when they cross the sidewalk and all that other stuff. We're locked up for that. So, you can keep locking people up. So, okay, if somebody dies and drops, we got the next one coming in. Same thing, just fast forward 2 centuries to 2024, right? During Tuesday's signing ceremony at the state capitol building in Baton Rouge, Landry, who was Louisiana Attorney General before he was elected governor in 2023, that's that election we was talking about, said he was fulfilling a campaign promise to the victims of violent crime, right? And again, they paint this narrative of crime, and you know exactly who they're talking about, right? One of the first promises we made was that we're going to deal with crime, and we did it in a way we listened to you all. With multiple strokes of his pen, Landry aimed to change the state justice system that he said has put the rights of violent crime perpetrators over those victims. Let me get to where it's going. All right. Among the laws Landry signed is one that clears the way to end a 14-year pause on executions in the state. Under the new law, nitrogen hypoxia will be added to the available execution methods, along with the reintroduction of the electric chair, which death row inmates dubbed gruesome Gertie. Executions by electrocution were retired in Louisiana back in 1991 when the state moved to lethal injections. We do it in order to hopefully deter people, to let them know that in a peaceful civilization, these are not the types of conducts and acts that will be tolerated here in the state of Louisiana, said Landry, as he signed the legislation while surrounded by families of murder victims. Understand, one of the reasons why there's that 14-year pause, that was there to ensure that you're not killing the wrong person. By the way, I'm somebody who does not support the death penalty, by the way. But that was there to ensure, especially as we came into the 90s and DNA and all that stuff became more prevalent in these cases, and there were lots of people who were being exonerated. That 14-year stretch kind of gives that window to make sure that before you go and you take the life of this person, there is, 100% no question that this is the person that committed the offense, right? Now that window is gone. So understand, people with these convictions, there's not some magical lawyer that shows up the next day and tries to work pro bono to help them. Sometimes these people's family are fighting and clawing and trying to get lawyers and trying to get this and trying to get that. And it may take years before they can get some fair representation. And then there's no guarantee that the judge will even hear the case, right? It kind of goes back to when we reviewed Silver Dollar Road, which that wasn't even about crime. That was a conversation of land dispute and, them snatching up heirs land. But again, when the uncles got arrested and how it took the family years to get a good lawyer and years to come up with the money. And they still lost a lot of things. The uncles eventually were released, but they still lost a lot of the land. The uncles were in there for 13 years or however many years, crazy. So that's what that's about. Let me keep going here. No permit needed to carry a concealed firearm. Landry also signed into legislation that will allow people to carry concealed weapons without a permit or training. The law also makes Louisiana the first state to grant concealed carry license holders a degree of qualified immunity. Qualified immunity from lawsuits if they use their weapons in self-defense, a provision currently reserved primarily for law enforcement officers. Understand that self-defense argument is going to be such a stretch. The goalpost is going to move for some and not for others, right? Be ready for that. The law will also lower the age for a person to carry a concealed firearm from 21 to 18. Governor signed the weapons bill despite critics, including New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell, saying it would make it harder for police to prevent shootings and homicides, right? Now, this one is the one that I think should have people concerned. Parole eliminated, good behavior sentence reduction curbed. Landry also signed into law 2 bills, he said, that will ensure convicted criminals serve the majority of the sentences they are given and that will eliminate the option for parole for convicted perpetrators. One of these pieces of legislation Landry signed, the Truth in Sentencing Bill, will require an inmate to serve 85% of their sentence before they can receive a sentence reduction for good behavior and reduces the amount of time which the sentence can be reduced. The other bill eliminates parole altogether for anyone convicted of a crime after August 1st, 2024. So on my birthday, August 1st, after that, parole will just not be a conversation. Landry said the new laws will place discretion and responsibility back where it belongs, on the judges. And we've seen how corrupt half these judges are that get appointed to these positions. Look at our Supreme Court, right? Do you really trust your livelihood with Amy? Do you really trust it with the other one, right? The governor is expected to sign more bills later this week. Among them is one that will lower the age at which a minor can be tried as an adult to 17 for all felony crimes. So yeah, now we can start killing the 17-year-olds too, right? That's the way we're moving. The law will make juveniles convicted of first-degree and second-degree murder, first-degree rape, and aggravated kidnapping ineligible to have their sentences modified. Under the same law, juveniles convicted of lesser felony offenses will have to serve at least half of their sentence before sentencing can be, or sentencing changes can be considered. Additionally, the legislation will for the first time allow some juvenile records to be made public. So again, when I say things are starting to be cemented, that's why I'm like, keep sitting out if you want to. All right, I understand. I ain't happy with what's happening, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna say the hell with it and I'm gonna let them keep effing up more things, right? And then we can just go to DC because now we can jump to the DC crime bill because, you know, the mayor literally today just signed the DC crime bill because, again, it's a lot going on out here. And I want people to take note, right? I'm going to read some of the pieces of this bill, and then I want to reference something that we've often referenced in a lot of these conversations, right? So now this DC crime bill that was just signed has over 100 different provisions. I'm going to read about 8 of them really quick, right? One of them is face coverings are now banned, right? That means like bandanas, hoodies, hijabs, the ski mask, all that stuff. You know, it's up to the police discretion at this point to determine whether or not you're breaking the law with your face covering, right? Now, Philadelphia has something similar, but DC's is a little bit more intense. Understand that that's a very targeted law. Now, I get it. These teenagers have been out here showing their behinds. I get it. But understand that we're getting into a space where you're creating a police state where people can barely even exist without being criminalized. Number 2, 2 or more people gathering, the police can declare that. Let me slow down. The police get the discernment to declare a high profile or high risk area. And if they declare an area to be high risk, high profile, then they can break up gatherings of 2 or more people. So if you and your homeboy are kicking it on the corner, you and your best friend, you and your girlfriend, you and whoever are on the corner, if the police tell you to break it up, you must break it up or you are violating the law and they can take you in, right? Crazy. So just think about what that means. That might sound like, oh, that's not intense. Think about when you go to a concert and the concert gets out. Think about you and your friends went out to eat, right? You know, and if you've got them good friends, y'all be talking and laughing all night, and then you're finally leaving, and you get up to go, but then you stand in one place and talk and laugh a little bit more, and then you start walking to the door, and you laugh and talk some more. Then you get outside, and you're right in front of the restaurant, and you're waiting for your Ubers and everything, and you're still standing there talking and laughing. In those moments, you're breaking the law. If it's a high-profile, high-risk area, you are breaking the law. It's too many of y'all, right? So just understand, like, it can just understand how petty this can get. Think of them Sunday church groups that be going out to eat after church. Right? It's 3 of y'all up in here. What y'all doing, right? And you got a hat on too? Wait a minute, right? It's getting wild out there. And then it gets more interesting. Police are now allowed to pretty much kill suspects in speed chases. Understand that DC has always had a no chase policy because if you've ever been to DC, you know it's a small city. It's compact, it's dense. Literally every block is important, but it's a small city, but everything's important. But the roads here are not built for cars, which is why a lot of them are so narrow. So one of the things that was happening before they kind of outlawed the idea of police chasing people in cars was that too many pedestrians were getting injured, too much property damage, too many parked cars always getting hit by the police jetting through. And so they tried to cut back on how often the police chase people in vehicles. Now that's kind of shifted. It's like, go ahead, chase, do whatever you got to do. And if you got to kill them, you got to kill them. Like that's where we're now at, right? Then we get to the body cam footage, right? The police are now allowed to view body cam footage before they make the report about what happened when somebody has been killed or injured by the police. Understand that one of the reasons why they didn't let the police view the body cam footage, because that meant the police are at their own discretion, like they're at their own integrity. They have to honestly say what happened. And if that footage doesn't match up, you're in trouble. Now it's like we can watch the footage and we can kind of corroborate a story of what we want to say. And then, of course, then there's the conversations of, oh, my body cam died. Now the cams are going to be dying and everything else. Oh, it malfunctioned. And, oh, I don't know. I didn't tell y'all, but I stand like this right over the lens that's right here. So I don't know how it missed everything. Yeah, I just, nothing happened. All we got is sound. So you have that happening, right? You can also now be detained for looking suspicious if someone is afraid and reports you, right? You can be detained or arrested for looking suspicious if somebody is afraid. We know how this is going to go. This is a city that is going through the change of gentrification and has been since I moved here 18 years ago, right? And so, and it's only going to keep going. Understand, you have all these neighborhoods that are being gentrified. You got folks moving into different spaces, and they keep thinking the whole world is supposed to stop just because they showed up. And then the world doesn't align with how they see things, and they get nervous and afraid of everything and everybody. So imagine how many folks are about to start getting detained, right? Let me see what else we have here. Officer records now can be hidden as far as misconduct, right? So the records of DC officers in the past, you could pull up an officer and look at what they did. So in that same way, when I was reading the lawsuits and I was saying, oh, this officer had this much money, that went out in lawsuits, all that is about to be sealed, right? So let me hold on to that document I got, right? And again, with the subway system, we know people like to jump the fares and not pay. Same issue in New York. But now they have this thing where pretty much if you do not show your ID on demand to whatever officer is in the station, right, you can be subject to arrest or a $100 fine, right? And then also getting rid of a gun or discarding a gun or even turning one in technically is now a crime. Not having one, but discarding one, right? And so the point that I want to get at is earlier when I was talking about the whole idea of sensationalizing the conversation of crime and painting that lens of who the perpetrators are, I want you to realize we're in a cycle. We've been here before. This is how we got the 94 crime bill, right? So when we come out of the 80s, right? We're coming out of the 80s. It's still the peak of the crack epidemic, right? You have the lack of support that came from the Reagan administration when it came to HIV and AIDS research. And so we've seen so many people just pass on and die. And at the same time, a lot of people got super, super wealthy under Reagan, but a lot of people became very, very poor, right? We watched the widening of the gap between the rich and the poor. We watched the inflation kick in. We watched the skyrocketing of college admissions and tuition. We watched the skyrocketing of the cost of housing. We watched wages become stagnant as the cost of living continued to get higher. Rent got higher, cars got higher, everything got higher, interest rates got higher, everything shot up. And so the world is in a place where, yeah, crime is skyrocketing, right? You have a lot of people who have lost everything or who have nothing, right? And so you start getting this increase in crime. And what do we end up see happening? Our media starts to paint the picture of everything is out of control, it's wild out here. We also now have the emergence of shows like Cops and America's Most Wanted and all these different programs to get out there and get the bad guys. And you create this narrative of good guys versus bad guys, right? And again, the way that it's painted, even when you look at the imaging, we've talked about this before. A lot of times when you see the reporting from the news where they talk about a drug, prone area or an area where there's a lot of crime, sometimes they wouldn't even show anybody selling drugs or doing anything. It's just two people standing by a fence and they get that shot of them from the waist down with sagging pants and they're just standing there. Maybe somebody got the brown liquor bag and that's them being a bad citizen. So you keep pushing and embedding that image into America's heartbeat, right? And all of a sudden people start to think things are really, really bad out here. Something must be done. And to be fair, things were actually pretty bad. The crime was a lot higher than it was now, right? And so especially when we're talking about what was happening in Black communities that had been left destitute, where there was divestment, right? They took everything out of the cities. As they start gentrifying and pushing people out and putting the money into other things, you're leaving people destitute, leaving people with nothing. You're pulling funding from the school. You're pulling funding from the library. You're cutting the food programs. Reagan, hey, we remember he cut the school lunch program, all these different things that have happened. So by the time we come out of the Reagan era, bankruptcy's up 600%. Foreclosure skyrocketed, credit card debt skyrocketed, college debt skyrocketed, cost of healthcare skyrocketed, right? He put Donald Reagan over the U.S. Treasury, right? Donald Reagan, a dang banker who was already trying to get rich. And then what did Donald Reagan go and do? Not Ronald, but Donald. Donald went there and deregulated everything, deregulated Wall Street, deregulated the banks, deregulated what happened with insurance companies. And so a lot of people got really, really rich and everybody else became collateral. So now I was about to cuss. S word show in the United States. Something must be done. So what ends up happening? Now the conversation is crime. Rather than fixing what are the triggers of crime in regard to the conversation of resources, jobs, opportunity. Because really, a lot of times when you see a lot of crime, it's because there's just nothing there for people, right? When you feel that you don't belong to something and people have built a whole world around you that you don't get to be a part of, yeah, you're more prone to jump into crime because what loyalty do you have to whatever's around you? If you're in a city that has been gentrified, you were one of the original residents. They built everything around you. You weren't included. To the point where your neighborhood school closed, right? It's now some luxury condos and everything. And they start changing the laws. And now they got quiet hours on your street. And now they got a new bike lane here. And this is where you used to park, but you can't park anywhere. So now you got to park 3 blocks over and everything else like that. And you've watched all your neighbors get taxed and priced out. And before you know it, the neighborhood you lived in is a shell of what it used to be. And you're a 16-year-old kid, right? And I'll speak for DC. DC, in my opinion, is a city that is for adults. There is nothing for teenagers here to do because everything's too expensive. All of those spaces that you normally see teenagers frequent, they don't have that because there's curfews, there's businesses that don't allow people under 21 to come in, right? There's all these different things that have happened. So that idea of what you would see on like a Moesha where we're going to go to Andell's, a place to hang out. There is no Andell's here, right? You know, even when you're talking after school programs, a lot of them are underfunded and there's not a lot of them. So if you bring up like the Boys and Girls Club, you know, great organization, they do a lot of stuff with kids, but there's only 4 of them in the city as far as the ones that are under the Greater Washington affiliate. And there's a few kind of like sports oriented things, but like there's nothing for teenagers here to do. So yeah, they are all over the place, showing their behinds. But getting to my point, going back to the 90s, everybody kept saying the crime. We got to do something. We got to do something. And Democrats at the time had not been in power for 12 years because Republicans ran everything from after Carter got booted out, right? We ran through all of the Reagan years, and then we ran through 4 years of Bush. Republicans were in charge the entire time. House, Senate, they had it locked in, having a good time, right? And Democrats were trying to find a way to get back in. And everybody kept saying Democrats are too soft on crime. They're too weak. They're too soft. They're weak. Because again, we had everything locked in with, you know, if you're poor, it's because you're lazy. That was the Reagan approach. If you're poor, it's because you don't work hard enough. The pull yourself up by the bootstrap, the welfare queen conversation, all this crazy stuff, right? And so what do Democrats do? They're like, well, damn, we're gonna have to spice it up some. You have the Congressional Black Caucus saying, y'all need to do something about this crime. It's crazy out here. Ain't nobody, they ain't doing, it's wild out here, right? Okay, fine. We got something for y'all. Boom, here comes Bill Clinton, and here's the crime bill. We're going to do this. We're going to have mandatory minimums. We're going to 3-strike you out, and everybody championed it. Yeah, we get it done. Yeah. You know, come up with this bill with no research, no trial and error, no long-term outcome, thinking if you just lock everybody up, it'll fix everything. And then we fast forward, everybody was mad. You know, this is how we end up with Jim Crow Joe and all that other stuff, right? Because all of these, because Joe was one of the main shit. Yeah, we're going to lock him up, right? Because like I've said, my critique of Joe Biden has always been that he goes wherever the wind blows. Right? If it were back in that, if we go back to 94, if the conversation wasn't about crime and the conversation was everybody wants free tuition and that's what they were pushing, he would have ran behind it, right? If the conversation all of a sudden was, you know, let's codify Roe v. Wade and everybody was behind it, that's what he would have ran behind. If the conversation was, you know, let's ban cigarettes permanently for everybody, right? And enough people were behind it, he would have ran behind it. That's my beef with Joe. Joe just goes wherever he wants to go because he wants to be in charge of stuff, right? And so all these people ran behind it. They put the bill in. We saw what it did. We saw how it destroyed communities. We saw how it destroyed Black America pretty much. On top of the conversation of the wealth gap, on top of the conversation of the crack epidemic, on top of the conversation of what happened with HIV and AIDS, right? And so, you know, everybody was mad and you saw Hillary run for office and she was catching it because your husband made that bill and blah, 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 blah. And so here we are in 2024 with a Democrat elected mayor, Mayor Bowser, Democrat, and everything, been in office for 3 terms, and she's literally playing the exact same game that they put out on the table back in the 90s, and here we are again, right? So I just want to say, I'm saying it now, because in 10, 15 years, when all these folks are getting locked up for crazy stuff, I want people to remember that Bowser pretty much said, I'm going to cave to all of these wealthy real estate agents who feel some kind of way about the city and its demographics and all of the conservative white folks in the city who kept claiming crime was so bad and we must do something that not only did they come up with a crime bill, they came up with one that is so extreme that it's ridiculous, right? And then city council voted for it. Now, I will give Trayon White, I'll give him a pass because at least he voted president, but everybody else was like, yeah, we're behind it. Okay, yeah, sure. So understand, this is what y'all set up. So listen, when the conversations start coming and people are feeling like DC is a police state, please remember, what's today's date? March 11th, March 12th, 2024. Y'all signed that crime bill in there and applauded, right? So we'll see where this goes. I'm going to pause because I said a whole lot, but stupid. Y'all keep caving to the fears of white folks and everything they got. And it's not to say that you don't address the crime, but I get it. But again, you're also doing nothing to fix the problems that create crime. All you keep doing is over policing. DC has the largest police presence out of any city in this country. You know, the largest per capita officer per person in the country, right? And so the idea of just getting more police officers is not going to fix anything. Plus, we also have additional police. So you got Metropolitan Police Department, you got Parks Police, you got Special Police, you got U.S. Capitol Police. Like there's like 12 different police divisions in this city. But we'll see. Crazy. She already sold out to all the real estate developers. That's why rent is so high already. Cost of living in the city then got even higher. And so you said we just gonna lock up everybody else. All right. Oh, Bobert, whatever. Tyler Hackner, lesser evil, never anybody actually unequivocally good. Because I don't see none of these politicians as good folks. Like I said, for me, all I see is harm reduction. Who's gonna make things less terrible? That's all I can get. Thoughts on, hey, what up, Dana? Thoughts on uncommitted votes in the primaries. I hope that's a wake-up call for Biden, because I don't know why we're still funding this nonsense in Gaza. Like that, it's ridiculous at this point. And like I've been saying, Netanyahu is a terrible person. Pretty much, he's just the Israeli version of Trump. He is unhinged. And I want people to also understand. Oh, I see an ad. I'm about to skip it. Skip. Okay, skipped it. Boom. And I want people to understand that if the tables were turned and Orange Man was in office right now, the same thing was still going to be happening. Right? Understand, Netanyahu and Orange Man were buddy-buddy. So people keep thinking that if Orange Man was in there, he would have, no, he probably would have gave them more weapons. He would have probably told them, go ahead and nuke everybody, right? Let that be a wake-up call. They need to get this, listen, stop funding that nonsense, because I think people are tired of their tax dollars paying to go and kill people. Like I already told y'all, war is stupid. All you people who got beef, you world leaders go in a room and y'all duke it out. Don't bring us in that nonsense, right? And the conversation of, oh, it's Hamas and they're using human shields. And okay, well, if they're using human shields, why are you dropping a bomb on everybody? So everybody just got to die because human shields. So you just drop a bomb on everybody. Everybody gonna get it done. Just that whole 20-foot radius. We'll just take everybody out, please. Ugh. Let me see. Charlene McKinney said, this is my last election as a Democrat. I will be changing mine to independent. I'm independent, but sometimes I will register under Democrat if I want to vote. You know, when they have the closed primaries, I'll shift my registration just so I can vote in it, and I'd be going back the other way sometimes. Because listen, there's a lot of people. I will say, even with the Democrat Party, you're starting to get a lot of folks who are coming into the Democrat picture that are not Democrats. Cinema, right? Mansion, you know, and even on local levels, people who are coming in and running as whatever they are, and then they pretty much are there to cause havoc and support, you know, other policy that goes against what they ran on. So there's a lot going on. Exactly, Reba Ann Buckner. Remember Project 2025? This really ain't the time to tap out, because that is going to be some wild stuff. And they're bragging about it. Like they can literally, please go on Google what they want to do with that. But it's like they are proud to have horrible ideas. Horrible, right? Excited. Can't wait, right? And again, whiteness is so strong, people will put this right into play. We'll lock it right in. Lord, make it make sense. Sometimes I wish I could just be ignorant like everybody else and just live in cuckoo land and sleep good at night. But then you end up being collateral later down the line, so maybe that's not a good idea. ALJ here, 128. Major cities like Baltimore and DC have noise ordinances. I told y'all that time. My godmom has been in her house for like 30 plus years. And you know, in the summers and the spring, you know, I like to go over there. We like to put on the Bose speakers in the backyard and bring out the bushel of crab and just play our music and have a little Heineken. And that's the only time you'll see me drinking a beer, because I don't like beer. But I will do Heineken with some crab every now and then, especially if it's like it's been in the freezer. Yes, wonderful, right? But I remember one time we were just in the backyard chilling, had the music playing, cranking, and you know, her neighborhood has been going through the change because she's one of the last Black residents on her street. And that white lady with them khaki shorts came up one day like, oh, we just want to let you know we're going to be implementing quiet hours. And we're like, quiet hours for what? Oh, well, the council voted on it. We're like, what council? The new neighbors who had moved in had created their own little council and had implemented quiet hours on that street. And then a few weeks later, you saw the city putting the sign talking about quiet hours. I said, yeah. And none of them even own their house, but okay. DC crime bill is extreme, but what is the answer to solve the issues with the rising crime? I know a couple of people who have been robbed at gunpoint. The issue for me with DC is that all the investment in the city has gone to real estate. If you don't have money in the city, you have nothing, right? If you don't have money in the city, you really cannot survive. You're gonna have to, because even the programs that are there for like housing assistance and stuff like that are so backlogged, and there is so much crap going on this side. And so, yeah, you're gonna keep seeing crime increase in the city because it's unlivable right now. Like, you got to really have some money. Like, I'd be thinking, like, man, if I had if I had a car note, and if I owed a lot of debt for college, I'd really be hurting right now. Like, y'all would see me on YouTube every day trying to balance things out. Fortunately, that's not really my experience, so I have a little bit of cushion money. But man, Like I said, I think for teenagers, like I said, there's nothing here to do. I think for people who have been here long enough to remember DC before the major change, you don't feel anchored to this city, right? You don't feel that sense of community is on. I mean, it's there in some pockets. You can still find it in parts of like Ward 7, Ward 8, some parts of Northeast. But as far as like everything in Northwest, done. It's all franchised, all luxury buildings made out of paper that they call luxury and put some linoleum flooring in and stainless steel appliances, and that's luxury. And then they charge $3,500 a month for it. That, purchasing a house, right? All the houses are like at least $600K, and you don't even get a yard, right? And so the people who are holding onto their houses are now being taxed out, right? And it's not just DC, it's a bunch of places, but there's not enough investment for the actual people of the city right now. And because DC is also a transient city, right? You have your people who are DC natives, they're never going anywhere, they love it here, this is home. But you have a lot of people who come here specifically for work, and they come here to set themselves up to go somewhere else, right? And so what, to me, it feels like the purpose with the current administration that runs the city is make that group of people who come, as far as the transplants that are in and out, make them have the best experience, and then that's it, right? And so, like I said, it's an expensive city to be in. For teenagers, there's nothing for them to do. There's not a lot of green spaces. I will say, if you have money, there's lots of things to do. If you have money, you'd be all right. But if you don't have any, you're out of luck. And I think that sucks, right? And I think that kind of creates the increase in crime. People are going to start doing things to come up with money or whatever they got to do to survive or to get by, right? And as people feel like the city has left them or built around them and did not include them, you're going to continue to see crime go up. I wish I would have had the research I had, but I found a piece of research that even shows that even when you're gentrifying a city, there's a certain phase during that element of gentrification where crime starts to skyrocket. And it is because the original residents who were there are now in that space where their livelihood and their existence and everything they have known has been chopped up into pieces and spread out everywhere. And you start to get that resistance, and you start to get that element of, I don't feel connected to any of this. So what does any of this mean to me? You know what I mean? Think back to, God, I don't know this woman's name, but this is during 2020, during all the uprisings. And it was a powerful, it wasn't even a speech. They just caught her off guard and she said everything she felt. And when she said that bit about, be happy that Black folks just want justice and not vengeance. And she was talking about, because they're like, oh, well, you guys keep burning down all your businesses. And she's like, we don't know none of this. None of this is ours. The liquor store is owned by this group. The corner store is owned by this group. All these different groups were given grants and everything else by the city to do stuff. We were rejected. The banks denied our loans. The banks told us we couldn't do this, couldn't do that, got bought out, got pushed out. Everybody else got to grow on our dollar. And then you want us to care about whatever store is on the corner that, are to replace somebody's mom and pop shop from 20 years earlier. Here's this franchise building that has no connection to the community, and you want us to care about it being burned down in this moment. Yeah, we'll be inconvenienced that it's not there anymore, but it wasn't there for us anyway. It was there for the people who were moving in, so it's a lot. I have been talking very fast, by the way. Let me start slowing down. Yeah, so the crime to me is the outcome. They never get to the origin of what kind of creates an environment for the crime to grow, right? We never get there. Barry Addison, Calvin, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Over the top retired British Secret Service in Maryland State Police, Glenn Burney. Oh, okay. All right. Let's see. Yes, quiet hours. I was like, they out of here. Wait, Vito, exactly. Black people need to be involved in local politics for the real change to happen. Locally is where all the stuff is happening. Exactly. This DC crime bill, this is all local. Like, this wouldn't have passed had people been a bit more tuned in with even what was going on with the council elections, right? All that stuff plays a role. So yeah. All right. What else do I have here? I'm gonna have to look at my titles and see what have I skipped. Oh, gotta have to talk about Haiti. Okay, let's talk about it. I put it in the title. Okay, shifting gears here, because I do have an international audience. We can talk about everything, right? And this still even ties to the U.S., right? So we know that Haiti right now has had a lot going on. The Prime Minister, what's his name? Omri. Was it Avery Omri? Ariel Omri? I can't speak no French, so I'm gonna get all these names wrong. But Omri has stepped down, right? Now, remember, he was appointed in 2021 after the assassination of the last president. And so here's just some of the issues that have kind of taken place. Now, he also was implicated in the assassination, and we've seen the story about some of the names that have been coming out with that. So I understand Haiti already had enough going on, right? And then again, we get another person who's dropped into a position. He was not elected, he was appointed, which is one of the things that people of Haiti have been tired of, where again, these leaders keep getting put into these positions and the people do not want these leaders there, right? And so one of the things that he had promised to do was move Haiti closer to elections, right? They haven't had elections in a really long time, to the point where all of the country's politicians, all of the terms have expired a long time ago, right? And so he decided not too long ago he was going to push the Haitian elections to 2025. That stirs up more controversy because you already have a lot of resistance groups that are like over this. They want to pretty much just take over the government and say, let's run our own stuff. Because at this point, y'all keep putting these puppets in here and they're still screwing us over, right? And so by him saying he wanted to push the elections to 2025, that just means more years of unhappiness with the people. And so now you're starting to see the resistance groups. They've taken over 80% of the capital. They got the airport on lock, all these different things. And the main point is that they just do not want any more plants, right? And another piece to think about too, Haiti has a very interesting political setup because they have dozens of political parties. And so when it came to the agreement with them, having the prime minister step down, I forgot the name of the group. It's CARICOM, the Association of Caribbean Nations, right? When they agreed for the PM to step down and even agreed with what the next steps were going to be, it only included 7 of those political parties. Now understand, Haiti has at least 23 that are represented by the National Assembly, and then they have another 34 that are not represented. So there's all these different groups that are there. And so that kind of also stirs up, the controversy, like, okay, we don't feel like we're being heard. And so, but what I want to get to is when we talk about that conversation of origins again. Now, I talked about this a really long time ago, but I said we would go back to it. I just want you to realize how much the U.S. plays a role in a lot of the problems that take place around the world. So can we backtrack, right? So we remember you have the Monroe Doctrine that comes out in 1823, right? This is the law that said any attack on the Western Hemisphere is an attack on the United States. That was kicked in 1823, right? So here comes 1825. Now, this is after the Haitian Revolution. Haiti done got their freedom. F y'all, we ain't about to be y'all slaves no more. Y'all lost your mind. And remember, Haiti at this point had one of the, I think, the second largest economy in the world because of sugarcane, right? Massive economy, flourishing, having a great time. France is like, we still feel some kind of way because we're not getting none of that sugarcane money now. So they show up in 1825 and they want reparations. Of all people, they want reparations. Now, we done enslaved y'all and colonized them, but we want reparations because y'all want to be free. You messing up the money. So instead, we want you to pay us back what would eventually be the equivalent of $28 billion in 2021. Now, this is back in 1825, but when you do the numbers and you do the math on how much they ended up having to pay, it rounds up to about $28 billion in today's money. Probably even higher because 28 billion in 2021 is not even the same in 2024. Thank you, inflation. All right. And so Haiti was like, too bad for y'all. The U.S. already has the Monroe Doctrine. Y'all can't come over here trying to shake the table because they got our back. And then the U.S. was like, actually, we got to change our mind. Yeah, we mean the Western Hemisphere, but not y'all. And in the future, not Cuba either. But yeah, everybody else, we'll think of, and probably not Venezuela either, and a few, and maybe probably not even Argentina while we think about it. But everybody else is under the Monroe Doctrine, but not y'all. So y'all, good luck. Have fun. Good luck, guys. Right? And so they're like, yeah, we changed our minds. And so what ends up happening too, the U.S. starts to think like, actually, Haiti is sitting on a nice sum of money. They got gold reserves. They got the sugar. We let's jump in there. So then the U.S. jumps in the mix, right? And so now the U.S. is starting to dip and dab. And now we're in a space where, because they did not intervene with the France occupation and the reemergence, Haiti now has to pay France. Haiti needs to find a way to pay France, right? So what ends up happening is there's a lot that happens in like the next few decades, right? Haiti loses 7 presidents in a handful of years through assassinations, right? The people keep electing folks and they keep getting taken out, right? Because this is all of a bigger plot to kind of just snatch up Haiti anyway, right? Let's get a hold of their resources, right? And at the same time, U.S. starts to get nervous about Germany because Germany also has an interest in Haiti because they're like, Haiti's still over there running free and stuff, and they got all that sugar cane and it's in the Caribbean, it's nice, and the Dominican Republic is right there. We can do some trade with them, and that might give us a better relationship with Spain. And so everybody's looking at Haiti. Everybody's thinking about Haiti, and so the U.S. is like, let's go ahead and get in here before Germany messed this up for us, right? And so, by the way, going back to that $28 billion, understand it. That's like what you would call it. That is like, when you're doing the math, I think that was twice the price of the Louisiana Purchase when you shifted back over into modern times. So just understand, it was wild. It was a wild time. But anyway, so the U.S. jumps in there and they decide, okay, we want that sugar cane, we want everything else. And so the U.S. decides we're going to go into Haiti in 1915, right? And so they take $500,000 out of their national bank. Understand, $500,000 was a whole bunch back then. And then they also take all of Haiti's gold reserves. Remember, before the Nixon administration, like the U.S. dollar was backed by gold reserves. So those actual dollars actually meant something. Right now, if you look at a U.S. dollar bill, it just says legal tender. It's pretty much saying it doesn't mean anything. But back then, money was backed by something, right? It's one of the reasons why when people start talking about Gaddafi and the idea he had of, trying to create a united currency on the continent of Africa backed by the resources in Africa and how he mysteriously disappeared, because it kind of paints the picture of if that would have been successful, all of these economies, including the U.S., including China, including Russia, including Japan, our money would be worth nothing because boom. So yeah, Gaddafi's out of there, right? He was a really bad man. But anyway, so yeah, they take all that. So they take the $500,000 out the bank, the national bank. They take the gold reserves. That's equatable to $13 million, right, at that time. And so it's pretty much the majority of Haiti's economy. And the U.S. says, we're going to just keep this for safekeeping, because at this point, the economy in Haiti has been slowly collapsing, right? Because there's now embargoes and stuff kicking in. People aren't doing business with Haiti. They've kind of been left destitute on their own and everything. So they're going through the downside. That's normally what happens. Destabilize the government, destabilize the way of living, and then say, oh, they need our help, right? And so they snatch the gold reserve. We're going to keep it for safekeeping and everything like that, right? And so the fear was that the Haitians pretty much would, uprise and destroy their own economy. So we'll just take their money and do it ourselves. So understand, Haiti still has to pay these billions to France and everything else like that. And so Haiti has to find a way to pay it. So they say, okay, well, we'll take a loan out. You remember that money you took from us? We're going to need that back. And the U.S. is like, oh, that $500,000 we took in the gold? Yeah, okay, we can loan it to you, but it's going to be at an interest rate. You have to pay us back. So now Haiti is borrowing their own money from the U.S. at a high interest rate to pay France reparations. That also has an interest rate, right? Crazy, right? And so you have that happening. And what makes it so funny is the group or the company that was managing that money that the U.S. was loaning to Haiti, guess which bank that was? Because some of you use it, right? Citigroup, right? They're still in business today, right? And so understand, it took 122 years just for Haiti to pay off the interest of that loan, right? And so 80% of the revenue that Haiti was making back then, when they were under all these crazy loans and everything, 80% of the revenue they made went back to paying the loans. So what do you think that means for the people? That means no money for infrastructure, no money for healthcare, no money for education, no money for anything, no money for the way of living, because all of the money that's coming in is going to pay off loans. And on top of that, there's still the embargo. Nobody's working with Haiti. Haiti's not getting the support from anybody. There's no trade. There's no anything affecting international commerce. They're not in the conversation. That wonderful sugarcane industry is gone. It's done, right? They can just go get it from Hawaii now, right? Because, we stole them in 1896 as well. So, that's where we're at. And so, Haiti pretty much is just in this space where things suck. And then the U.S. decides, they keep invading Haiti, because understand, Haiti keeps trying to, climb out of the trenches. Every now and then somebody will get froggy in the U.S. You'd be like, we're going to put you right back in your place. And so between 1915 and 1937, there were a bunch of U.S. invasions, right? The U.S. just kept showing up, right? And then fast forward to 2015, France finally is like, all right, we'll forgive your loan because we're such great people, right? And then they just want to leave it at that. We're not going to try to restore anything. We're not going to give you any resources. We're not going to pay you back the money that was technically yours anyway. And so anyway, we get to this portion now where, Haiti pretty much asks the U.S., can you please stop invading our country? Can you stop taking out our leaders? Can your soldiers leave? And the U.S. is like, fine, we will. But if we leave, you have to change your constitution where it will say that we will control all of your financial assets if we leave. Haiti signs it, right? And so that kind of gets us into our result of today. This is why you keep seeing these appointed leaders get put in there, because all that centers around the conversation of money and finances. So even though France deserves so much smoke for the nonsense that they have done to Haiti, the U.S. is right there in that conversation. And then we play this really silly role where we pretend that but the government, pretend that there's this care and this need of the people of Haiti, and let's go send aid, and we have to step in and make sure that the people are treated justly. And then the media vilifies all the people and says these people are out of control and they're tearing up their airports and all these rebel groups and this, that, and the third. When in reality, all of the problems that they have are rooted in all of the actions of the United States and France. See how all this stuff just ties together? There's always an origin story with everything. But based on what you see in the media, all you see is these random stories where they say, oh, the Haitians are crazy. And, they ain't got no trees in Haiti. They was eating the trees, right? They have no trees. When in reality, the conversation of trees was because they had to have some kind of business. So jump into lumber. We got to do something because nobody's doing trade with us. We have to find ways to make money. So, yeah, everything under the sun, right? So it's almost like setting somebody's house on fire and locking them in, right? And then blaming them because they can't get out. And then when they asked you for the water, you were like, well, we could give you the water hose, but we were actually about to have a pool party over here. So we're going to need it because it's going to be girls and stuff. We're going to be splashing and everything, wet t-shirt contest. So maybe we'll give you some water when we're done. And then after everything done burned down, we're like, ooh, they need to get it together. But I don't know how they let that stuff burn down. They should have used some water. That's how we look, right? Crazy. All right, let me pause. And that's why I say when it comes to the conversation of reparations, I want everybody to get what is rightfully theirs. Haiti, get what's yours from the U.S. and from France. Black people, get what we need from the U.S. Ghana, get what you should be getting from the U.K. Like all these different places, get y'all stuff. Come and get your claim. And what's even crazier, even Kenya has stepped in with Haiti to try to support. I said, U.S., y'all just look terrible. Look terrible. Exactly, Poison Ivy. The world has been pissed at Haiti since they demanded and fought and won their independence. And it's making an example so nobody else ever steps out. And because even think of all the places on the continent of Africa that have gotten their independence and how much craziness and how much stuff just happens politically, right? Because a lot of these countries, too, are still in a situation where there's people that are being appointed and put in folks that the people don't want, right? So it's a bigger conversation. Cause and effect. Hey, baby. You can't create the cause, shove it in people's faces, and then pretend to be surprised by its effects. Exactly. They're about to ban menthols in Minnesota. Okay. 12 days to your birthday. All right, Joe Mario. Thank you for being on the other live too the other night. Ashley Cunningham, DC has changed drastically. Even when I moved here, because I moved here in 2006, it was already going through the change. That was when we were under Fenty. And I knew something was up when Fenty sold off all the middle schools. There were 21 middle schools that closed, and all those middle schools and all the property became real estate. And I feel like that kicked things into second gear with gentrification in the city, right? Always some mess going on. All right. Thank you, Jacqueline Dukes. Did you hear Usher had his former drum set on the stage during the Super Bowl as a tribute? Oh, that was nice. What do you think about that? I respect it so much. I didn't know that, but that's nice. Did the drummer pass or? Okay. Vanessa Seymour said teenagers these days are out of control. Groups of over 200 teens will gather and create mayhem. Yeah, that does happen. There's no adult supervision because parents are afraid of their children. And it makes me think back to, there's another clip that's going viral that people have been talking about coming out of Missouri with the two students, and then the girl beats the girl up and hit her head in the concrete or whatever. And I do think that social media plays a role into some of how people move. I keep saying with these fights that these teenagers and even adults be having now, it's something about when people see somebody with like a phone recording. It's almost like people are like, now I must turn it up to the next gear because I can't be on camera getting beat up, or I can't be on camera not going all out. And so it's almost like a social currency to just be as reckless as you can be in these fights and everything that's happening, where now these kids are literally trying to kill each other. I'm thinking back to when I was a teenager because smartphones weren't out yet. And people didn't really record fights. If you were recording a fight, you actually had a whole camcorder for real. If you were in like the media productions class, you might have snuck the camera out of class if you heard there was a fight in the hall and tried to record it that way. But back then with like fights and everything like that, it was like if you missed the fight, you missed the fight. So kind of like if you were somebody who got to witness the fight, you were like the cool person that day. You were the news reporter. You were going, yeah, man, it was bad. I mean, she grabbed it by her hair. It was like, wah, 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 wah. And that was it. But I don't remember ever seeing any of these fights where people's heads were being banged into the concrete to the point where somebody's having a seizure and so on and so forth, right? So it's just, it's a weird space that we're in. And I think social media in general is the best and worst thing that has ever happened to society. Great for networking, great for connecting us more. This is technically social media, great for those aspects, but terrible in regard to the conversation of humanity and how we just move, right? So yeah, I think there's a lot going on. Kayla said, I don't understand why we need to register for either party. It depends, because you have open primaries and closed primaries, open caucus, closed caucus. The open ones you don't need to register. The closed ones are the ones where they're like, we only want the people in our club to say what it is, right? But yeah, our politics is a mess in this country. And yep, then we got Atlanta Cop City. Thank you, Order of the Beast. Atlanta Cop City is awful. And the fact that Julian Bond's son is behind it is disgraceful. Don't get me started on that. I think back to Julian Bond and the conversation around standardized testing and how he really fought and clawed to kind of end some of the stipulations that were about Black folks. One of my older videos was specifically on standardized testing, and we kind of just jump into how the purpose of it was initially to try to paint the picture that we were inferior intellectually to everybody else, right? They had these different battery tests and all this other stuff. But man, yes, Deneen Grant, poverty is going to breed crime, right? Let's see. Alan said, I feel so sad what's going on in Haiti, Palestine, the Congo, so much going on in the world. There's a lot going on. And it's interesting because our media picks and chooses what they want to focus on, right? Or what they want to prioritize or what they make a big deal about. I want to make sure I'm not skipping any stories really quick because that would suck. And I certainly am, because I got a few other topics on here. So I'm going to read a few more comments and I have a few more things that I need to cover. Let's see. Let me make sure. Let's see something here. This was Louisiana laws. Okay, at least the stories get happier after this. Thank God. All right. Let's see what else we have. Abby Wise said, every time Calvin says to change, I think of menopause. Ugh, Lord. All right. Let's see. Alan said, I'm just glad World Star is no longer popular. Well, it don't matter because they just put it on the shade room anyway. It'd be the same nonsense. Crazy. Somebody said they said she died. Who died? Is that the girl from the fight? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and jump to the next few stories just because we gotta start winding down. Update. The last live we were talking about the bill in Mississippi that was supposed to close 3 of the state schools. Well, because they didn't move fast enough, the bill lapsed. So at least the schools are temporarily saved. So good for the Mississippi schools because there were 8 on the list and 3 of them were going to have to go. And we didn't know which ones were going to be, but there also were 3 HBCUs in that list. And there was a fear that the HBCUs would be the ones that were targeted. So at least in this moment, the bill lapsed. Schools are safe for now. So amen to that. What's my other page of notes? I want to make sure I haven't skipped anything. So this one can go. Oh God, I forgot about her. Katie Britt. This was the State of the Union response. The State of the Union, I watched a little bit of it. But she was the one who did the State of the Union response, which was very interesting because it was super, super dramatic. You saw her doing the children and safety of our people and just doing the most. And it's so funny because again, she's on code. Understand, like, all of that, again, that conversation we've just had of otherizing everybody, making everybody the boogeyman except for white folks, and then latching on to the virtuous white woman trope, because that's definitely been a thing, especially when you talk about the era coming out of slavery, right? The idea of the virtuous white woman who's the damsel in distress and must be protected by the strong white man against the angry black crazy sexual being, both the women, the children, and the men, right? This is how you end up getting Birth of a Nation, right? That same kind of narrative. Oh, you must protect. And so she's kind of moving in that same way. She might not have even had that specific intention or thought of that origin, but it's so embedded on how they move that it's just routine for them. And so she sat there and did all that dramatic acting, and in the kitchen had the cross on because she's a Christian. There's a conversation about white Christian nationalism happening in this country right now, where a lot of these bills that they're pushing are definitely influenced by, a bunch of conservative white men who are hiding behind the guise of Christianity and using that to be deployed to push a lot of racist policy, right? And so she did all that. She ends up using the narrative of a woman who had been trafficked and tried to talk about how she had a conversation with this woman and about her experience and tried to correlate it to what Biden wasn't doing, when in reality, the situation that happened to that woman happened during the Bush administration, right? And she never had an actual individual conversation with the woman. She was just at a space where they were having, this speech. I think I wrote down, let me see if I got it on here. I don't know if I kept it or not. But I was like, these people here just be up here lying. And then after she got all this smoke, after they'd made fun of her on Saturday Night Live, even Republicans were annoyed with her. Like, what kind of response was that? Because for some reason, the thing is this. If you're going to respond to the State of the Union and you want to talk about how much it sucked, address the policy. Sitting here and doing the whole theatrics and paint the boogeyman back, it's getting old, right? It's getting old. It's not working with everybody. It still appeals to that one group, but everybody else looks at you like you're crazy. But she ended up releasing a statement, right? Where's that statement? Because I was like, y'all love to do the most. Let me see if I can pull it up. Where are you at, Katie? And it was so stupid. She said, following my speech, the left-wing media didn't waste a second flooding the airways with despicable, disgusting messages about me. The senator's fundraising pitch states, they attacked my character. They attacked my faith, because now all of a sudden Christianity is under attack. They attacked my identity as a mother and a wife. Okay. My heart is broken, she added. Not just for myself, but for my children. See, this again, this virtuous white woman thing, make her soft again. My children, your children, and the entire next generation of Americans. Why? Because I didn't prepare a 20-minute speech and stand up to Biden in front of millions of Americans for me. I did it for them, for you, for your children. Friend. I can't. These people don't care about the children. They never have, right? They don't. You watch them gut food programs. We live in a country where 1 in 5 children starve or go hungry every day. And then when there are programs to combat that, you vote against it, right? We got lucky that the child tax care credit was reinstated because they let that lapse. But it's like these people, they pick and choose. And the problem is they play on the emotional pills of middle white America. But because middle white America is still lashed into the idea of whiteness, they can fall behind, the crazy policy thinking that it's going to make things better. And then they turn a blind eye to the things that are actually oppressive to everybody. And then somehow, because it has a ribbon on it and it's painted in the name of Christianity and white Jesus, then all of a sudden it must be a good thing. So she can sit here and have a horrible response to a speech, because the other thing is the woman doesn't even talk like that. You've seen her at her rallies, right? Seen her going in, and then she gets on there, please just stop it. I was like, I don't get what the goal is here. Like, what character are you trying to play, right? Like, I would have rather they just had Marjorie Taylor Greene do it. At least it would have been more entertaining. Like, Jesus. Like, these are just weird people. Like, girl is stupid. Just dumb. And North Carolina, please pay attention in your governor's race. Because if y'all elect that crazy black dude that was already saying that black people should be paying America reparations for bringing us over here, talking about, they did us a favor bringing us from the continent to the U.S., so we should be giving them reparations. Do not let that Negro get up in there. Okay? I've already said, it's very interesting when you get black politicians that serve as a mouthpiece for white supremacy, whether that's Tim Scott, Herman Cain is now dead. He played the game and he found out. And then you saw how nobody moved. But like you see a lot of these folks who get into these spaces. The lieutenant governor for the state of Virginia, who told black people to get over slavery and everything else like that, while she posed with her AR-15. All these different folks. It's interesting that they become so performative when they're trying to get into that door. Even more performative than the other folks. More performative than the Vivek Ramaswamis, and more performative than the Nikki Haley's. It's almost like they're so pressed to do this thing where they can say, hey, I'm not like those other ones. I'm one of the good ones. I'm smart. And because I'm so smart, I'm going to say all of these anti-black talking points, because I know that you think black people are stupid and that black people are dumber than you. So I'm going to also, be 10 toes down and drag that community and paint myself to be one of the enlightened ones. I'm going to say everything you want to hear. Even the idea of saying that, he doesn't even want women to vote. We need to go back to the days where women couldn't vote. I'm like, okay, you're getting real deep into this craziness now. So North Carolina, please act like you got some sense, because you already know a lot of folks are going to flood and run to vote for him just because he's saying all the things they like to hear. I think of Daniel Cameron. That's the Breonna Taylor, person, sat there and lied about all that stuff and covered up and all that other stuff. Like, these people play these roles, right? Look at Tim Scott trying to pretend he's engaged. And what did he say when he got engaged? She's a nice Christian woman. I was like, y'all. All right, Gums, whatever. I'm tired. I'm tired of these. Everybody's so stupid. Y'all lucky I have no interest in politics. My God. North Carolina, please do right by us, because if y'all let that Negro get in there with that nonsense, he didn't even have any policy. Everything was just, again, being a white savior complex. Do everything that they want to hear. He is not good for anybody. It's not good for us at all. These black spaces or faces in high spaces, we're starting to see them. They are showing out. That's all my heavy stuff, I believe. Amen. Yes, that is all the heavy stuff. So we can chop it up, keep it light for the rest of the night. Oh, wait. Oh, Bishop Lamar Whitehead. Let me get to him too. Jesus. Now let me get to some of these people right now. Remember, he was, did I read the article down? I'll just speak on it. I don't even need to read the article. He has been convicted of, one, spending $90,000 of the life savings of one of his church congregation members on top of another $5,000 he snatched up from somebody else. Now, you may remember him because he was the pastor that got robbed during the live stream, and somehow they stole $1 million worth of jewelry out of the church. I said, why is there $1 million worth of jewelry in the church? I was stuck on that. $1 million worth of jewelry. And that's still sketchy to me too. But anyway, he's been convicted. They haven't had the sentence in it or anything yet. But it's interesting because, you know, he responded and he did the typical, the devil's after me and stand with me and God knows the blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, y'all are such, because to me, there are people in the church that are wonderful people that really believe in what it is that they're doing, that are really about community, that are really about trying to shepherd their congregation. And they have like, I'll speak for the DMV real quick, right? So, you know, there's like Alfred Street Baptist Church is really popular here. They have that massive HBCU college fair to the point where it's gotten so big, they have to do it at like the convention center or the Gaylord Hotel. And this is this big HBCU college fair. They got on-site admission. Kids are getting scholarships. Some of my kids have gone to that and got admitted into some of their schools on site. Like, they're doing the work. There's Community of Hope AME out in Suitland, Maryland. It used to be the church that was in Iverson Mall. Now they're at Suitland High School for now. But they do all this community work, right? During the whole COVID thing, they were giving out meals for like a year and a half. Not just boxes of food, but like meals, hot food, right? Real food, right? They used to have this music studio program at some of the middle schools in the area where kids could do music theory. And like, there are people that really do the work. And not only just from the spiritual realm of that conversation, but really the idea of community. Then you got them other ones. You got those ones who it's all about ego, and a lot of them jump into this because there is money to be made, right? And so rather than taking the time to ensure that the members of their congregation are good and that they are spiritually feeding their congregation, they're spending more time on what the outfit's going to look like. They're spending more time on the presentation of what they're going to build on the stage. Now you got preachers getting a haircut while they're doing the sermon in real time. The preacher getting a haircut. What's the one I fried at that time where he spit in his hand and wiped it on the dude's face? I said, now what part of the Bible was that in? Right? Don't try to say that the time that Jesus was helping the blind man, he spit in the hand and rubbed the eyes. That ain't the same, right? So you get those folks. You get the ones who just snatch every dollar they can get. And it pisses me off because a lot of times when people go to the church or go to wherever, right? They go to these things because they're already at rock bottom. They are looking, and this is, I want you to believe in whatever you believe in. I'm not trying to preach y'all, but I'm just speaking from living, right? People go to these places because they are looking for answers. They're looking for tranquility in a world that is chaotic. They are looking for something to believe. That's what sometimes you hear a lot of older folks just say, thank God for Jesus, right? Because the world ain't nothing to look for here, but thank God, you know, people have what it is that they believe in, right? And so to take advantage of those vulnerabilities, where people trust you so much to the point where they're putting their life savings in your hand and you go and spend it on some bull. Like, there is a special place and you know where for you. Like, that is some trifling stuff, right? Trifling. And the thing for me too, especially when you're talking to Black church, there was a period in time where the Black church was that meeting place, especially when it came to organizing, especially when we're talking about the civil rights movement. That used to be the place. Like, think this is like before the era of social media, before the era of everybody having a TV in their house. Folks didn't even have, some people didn't even have radios, right? when it came to announcements about whatever was happening in the community, or if we're boycotting this, or stay off of this street because the Klan might be over there tomorrow, those were the messages that were being shared in the mosque or at the church, right? At these different places. And so when I just see certain people go and they turn something that was aimed at helping to better a community spiritually and also fester and take care of the people within proximity of that space to nickel and diamond everybody. You know, we need to, pastor needed another love token, right? Remember that time Creflo Dollar had the plane he needed replaced and he wanted like $60 million. And I'm like, and his reasoning was, you know, because I fly all over the world and do my ministry. So I need a new plane because his plane was falling apart. So he wanted the church, the congregation, to give him like $60 million to get a new plane. And I was like, but for $60 million, you could have employed so many people. You could have brought on you could have hired like 100 people for your ministerial staff, and y'all could have had a bigger project, and you could have been sending people all over the world to do all this great work, and they could have been flying commercial, right? And sit amongst the people, right? Sit amongst your people. Right. But he said, no, only I can do it. I alone. Give me a jet, $60 million. And I'm going to ask all the people who don't have money to fund it. And then sadly, they gave him the money. I'm looking at y'all like, y'all. And it was weird because I was watching one of the interviews and the news anchor was like, so, you know, how do you feel about him asking? And like, he deserved it. He do all the stuff for us. I was like, Lord, I'm not judging. Let me mind my black business. But do better, people. Right. And then I look like a Joel Austin. That time, he ain't want nobody in his church during the hurricane until he got all that smoke. And he's, actually, come on in. I said, y'all are some trifling people. That's all right. What you put out there does come back to you. So enjoy it. That's all I'm going to say. I'm making no goddamn sense. As far as that LSU game in South Carolina, for the people who had so much to say about the black women that threw a little bit of hands here and there, I hope you keep that same energy for the hockey games and the baseball games. Otherwise, shut up. Honestly. Shut up. Like, I'm so sick of the people and the fake respectability. Like, people love to use respectability when it gives them an opportunity to be racist every single time. Because if it's a hockey game, it's a rite of passage. Everybody, yeah, you know, they slam into the glass. Yeah, America, and everything like that. And the refs don't even break it up because it's too dangerous because of the blades and everything. They just let them duke it out, right? Yeah. You watch the baseball game, you know, the pitcher throws the pitch and it hits the batter in the back. He throws the bat down. He walks over there, and then the whole dugout clears out, and everybody just and everybody in the yeah. Now y'all watch a basketball game, and girl throws some hands and push, and now it's the end of the world. And where's the decorum? And what happened? What about the children? And what about I can't believe these are supposed to be college students. And then they start talking about this is what we're talking about with affirmative action and DEIA diversity. This is what we get. I'm just like, y'all be so full of it. So full of it. I just need more people in media to like start calling this out. Everybody be walking on eggshells. It be pissing me off. Like, y'all just let stuff slide. I don't like that. Like, where are the people in media that like can say it like they mean it, right? Say how they feel. They're on YouTube, right? I know a whole bunch of great channels that will drag folks accordingly. I always tell you, like Tareen Rain's channel, he'd be going in all the time, right? There's all these different people that will let folks have it, right? But the actual mainstream media, I'm like, y'all be make it make sense. Lord. Those are all my main stories. This one did make me laugh. I did see the did you guys see the clip of that choir singing Kirk Franklin Stomp? I can play the audio since they whatchamacallit. Let's see. Let me find it. I was like, y'all are out here cutting up. I don't know where they're from. I don't think they're in the United States because I kept hearing accents. But when I tell you this was the driest version of Stump I have ever heard in my life, let's see if I can find it. I was dying. Where are these people at? Oh, here we go. Let me see.
Well, I got news for you. You ain't heard
I was like, yeah, hey.
Now you know. Glory.
Oh, let me get further in.
You better run. I feel like I need some church up in here.
They are enunciating these words. Look, and so old girl had all the ad-libs down. I said, what place is this? These were not kids. These were adults. I don't know what country these people were in, but I guess I said, now, all right. Y'all should have called the Koreans because they would have had that down, right? K-pop, they would have had that song down. But call the Filipinos, they would have had this down. But it's such. Hold on, let me go back because it's just dry. You know how funky Stomp is. Hold on, let me go back to just a bit more. Just.
No weapon formed against me shall prosper.
Yes. They were cranking. I love it. We carry so much influence, often imitated, never duplicated. I'll say that. But yeah, they were makes me clap my hands, makes me want to dance. Stomp. I said, y'all, okay, all right. And maybe they just needed a bass guitar because Stomp got that. They didn't have a bass guitar. That's what it was because they was trying to play Stomp on an organ. I was like, I need y'all to go back to that Showtime at the Apollo episode when Kirk Franklin went on there. Like, that was lit. Like, if you gonna do that, I need them to study that. I don't know what version I just witnessed, but we weren't stumping on nothing on here. This was a light walk. All right. This might be power walking, but this was a light walk. This was like trying to walk over some leaves and not make them crunch. I said, Lord, but I'm gonna give kudos to the lady that was supposed to be Kirk, because she really did every single ad lib that Kirk had on the song. You can't suck my joy. I said, all right, come on. Right? Man, my goodness. Entertainment. Somebody asked me Madonna with the person in the wheelchair. Yeah. Long story short, Madonna is very Madonna. She gonna say what's on her mind, but she's on tour, and she I guess she has a portion where she has a stage that extends out into the audience, and she was talking to the crowd, and she noticed that somebody wasn't standing up. So she's like, why are you not standing up? And it turned out the person was in a wheelchair. I said, ooh, good luck cleaning that one up. But it's Madonna. She's always in trouble with something, so it didn't come and go. But that was like, all right. Wow. Somebody asked me, they have a movie coming out, or a documentary or docuseries coming out on Black Twitter. I'm not sure how to feel about it, because I do think there are some things I just want us to keep to ourselves. I don't think we have to always share everything, right? But who knows? Maybe it will be something that's very well put together. But when I saw the list of the people who were on it, I was like, I don't consider these people Black Twitter. I see these as like, they're people, they're kind of tuned in, but these aren't the people I'm following to get, whatever. We'll see how that goes. I really want us to get out of the habit of oversharing everything we do. Let us have some stuff to ourselves. Now, I will say, somebody made a good point that it's important to archive and document our placement in a lot of things during time. So to that argument, I agree. And that would make me say, okay, now the documentary or docuseries makes sense. But I just hope it doesn't turn into something that burns us later down the line. That's all I'll say. All right, I'm going to read the comments, and then we're going to wind down for the night. Can y'all believe I actually have a call after this? A wild time. Makes me clap my hands. Makes me want to dance. Stomp. I promise the stump. The whole stump. Nothing but the stump. It ain't over. It ain't over. Poison Ivy said that she lied about the story she told. It happened in Mexico. That was about the senator that did the response to the State of the Union. They're just lying, making up stories, right? That was like Orange Man talking about he watched a bunch of Muslims celebrating parade in New Jersey when the towers fell. He was standing there watching. Really, making up stuff. All right, I watched. Okay. Just reads exactly. They weaponize children like they do the Bible. They will sit here and claim, what about the children? What about the children? But they will cut funding to education. They will cut funding to after-school programs. They will cut funding to family programs. They will cut funding to everything that benefits children. Even to the point where we're having a measles outbreak because of stupidity. But what about the children, right? And really, they're not talking about our children. They're talking about their children. And really, they don't care about that either. Karen Britt and Katie Britt. Somebody said, I'm trying to figure out how people like Tim Scott and Clarence Thomas are created. What's the origin story? I don't get it. To that point, there is an excellent podcast called Slow Burn. You can listen to it on Spotify. They have maybe 5 episodes dedicated specifically to Clarence Thomas's journey. And like it, understand, Clarence Thomas at one point was sounding like me right now. He did a full 180, right? He has an interesting story. So definitely check that out. That gives you all of his origin story and how he ended up in the space that he's in now. And they went in on that. They went in on him on that. So yeah. But no, I do think a lot of these folks that are getting these tap dancing folks that keep showing up and everything, they're definitely being paid to show up. Just like how I told you on the last live, they were trying to pay off Hill Harper to run against the one lady from the squad, right? They were gonna pay him upwards. I forgot how much, but it was millions to run against. Like they know what they're doing, right? Look at that that Georgia Senate election with Warnock, right? With the other guy. Lord, I forgot the man's name. Who's Warnock running against? Jesus, I forgot already. Because these people run and lose, and then you never hear from them again. Warnock. Oh, Herschel Walker. Yeah, look at what happened with Walker. Clearly he was dropped off to be in that. No policy, just saying all the crazy stuff. Yeah, Mike Todd. That was the one with the spit. That was disgusting. There is no way I was going to stand. Because the guy stood there and let him do it. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. It wouldn't have been a pulpit that day. Somebody says, at what point does it become a cult? Speaking of cult, I was thinking, I really feel like Orange Man is almost to the point where he could probably pull a Jim Jones if he wanted to. He could really, if he said, I'm going to make a MAGA country, and he told everybody we're going to go to, I don't know, they're going to move somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. They're going to move way out in Appalachia, somewhere in the woods, and start a fort. They would be signing up to go. And if he told all of them to do whatever, they probably would do it. Have the whole cool, man, I'm telling you, it's getting wild out here. People are a little too attached to these politicians. That's when it gets scary. Politicians are here to serve and work for you, not be your hero and your voice of reason, and you run behind them and worship them, and now you're fighting and trolling people on the internet, all in the name of defending that politician. That's ridiculous. Especially when this man is clearly running to, one, pay his bills and pay off his debts. He is not thinking about America. Somebody said it's giving raisins in the macaroni. No, that's the Stomp version. Alan said that's stink, not stump. Avocado Queen said unseasoned. Brooke Smith, why does it sound like they're trying to do opera choral singing, not gospel? What's funny? One time, because y'all know I've lived many lives, and there was a period where I was a choir director at one point. But I remember I got invited to do, this was in Virginia. It was like a Fairfax County Schools event where they had like this workshop with choirs, right? And so they had one where it was middle and high school boys where they were trying to have a choir. And this lady was like, I'm looking for a director that could teach gospel, right? And so I was like, oh, yeah, I used to do that. Sure, I can do it. And right, so I had signed on, but then before I could start, somebody who was over her was like, well, the one thing I don't want them doing, I don't want them belting because I don't want them to mess up their larynx. And so he was asking if I could teach them a gospel song where they don't sing out of their chest and they only sing out of their head voice. And I'm like, what gospel song is that? Right? What are we supposed to sing? Gospel is out of here. And so, man, interesting. So yeah, a lot of choirs do. They teach to not even sing out of this. It's all head voice for some folks. So I think that's what they were doing, right? Somebody said it needs some more cowbell. Somebody said exactly too many idol worshipers. Yeah, it's folks. I can never get behind a person to that point where I'm willing to put my livelihood on the line for somebody. Like, think of all the people, and it's not just Orange Man. It's a lot of these politicians. Think of the people who ruin their lives running behind somebody. They take charges running behind somebody, right? They compromise their livelihood, their family, their integrity to stand behind one of these crooked politicians. For what? And then the politician turn on you anyway. Throw you under the bus at the first chance they get, if it means they can get off. Okay, I will never forget Dick Cheney shooting that man in the face, and then the man apologized. I said, how do you get shot in the face and you apologize for getting shot? Ain't no way. Mm-mm. All right, we're about to wind down. This has been good. Oh yeah, Lenny Kravitz, Baby Love 14 said, congratulations to Lenny Kravitz for being honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He's very talented. I'm so happy for him. He's an icon. Yeah, my favorite Lenny song has always been Storm. And I really like the remix, the Just Blaze remix of that song. I've always loved that song. That's a really good one. And I like the Where Are We Running song? And I Want to Get Away. That was a good one. I like that one. Back in the day when I still lived at home with my parents, well, I was a teenager. My brother, they had bought him this guitar one time. I remember when Marcus was little, sometimes he would play his video games and he would be so serious on them. Like I had video games, but I didn't care like that. If I lost, oh well, who cares? Whatever. You know, by the time I got to like age 10, I wasn't as pressed anymore. But I will say when I was like 5 or 6, losing Mario was like the end of the world for me, but I grew out of it. But Marcus used to be like just serious on the game, right? And so he'd be just playing and looking at the screen. I remember I would take his guitar and then I would come right in there and start screaming Lenny Kravitz, I want to get away. Just making noise. He'd be like, get out. And then don't let him lose the round. Now he want to fight you. And poor kid. Man, what a time. Let's see. Yeah, Lenny Kravitz aged very well. I hope. Look, there's certain people I hope I can age like. I hope I can age like Lorenz Tate or like Lenny Kravitz or who else is somebody that still looks the same after all these years. Morris Chestnut still kind of looks the same. You know, I'm like, Lord, let the genetics do their genetics thing, please. Don't let my hairline slide back and don't let it thin out in the back. Calvin, did you see that little girl sing the national anthem on the basketball game? I did. I'm not going to fire the kid up. I'm interested to see what she sounds like when she's older. And the reason I'm not going to fire her up is because I remember watching before they were rock stars. And I'm going to say Britney Spears and Christina sounded exactly like that when they were little. All right? Fans don't come on over here fight me, but I remember watching that clip of Britney. I don't care. I was like, she sounds just like that little girl. And then Christina was up there growling too when she was little. So I'm anxious to see what that little girl will sound like when she's older. But it was funny. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, y'all got a lot going on here. But she was doing the faces. One of the things they teach you in saying, like, if you don't know what you're doing or if it ain't going well, at least look like you're selling it. And she was selling it, had the face down. So I'm sure, you know, she's a little kid. So, you know, they have little bodies. The voice is just not developed to do the big notes yet. So I'm anxious to see what she'll sound like when she's older. Hopefully it will not be like Fergie, and maybe it will be more to the Christina Aguilera side. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Zalanar said they're teaching wrong. You're supposed to be able to control all parts of your voice. Exactly. But they don't specialize like that. The way that they were singing them songs, they don't even specialize in that. That's not even a thing for them. I'm like, that's dumb. Because with your voice, you kind of have to, if you give too much attention to one thing, yes, you can master it and it can sound really, really great, but other things will become collateral. So the goal is to try to balance everything. So balance your falsetto, balance your chest voice, balance your head voice, be able to kind of do them all. Because, you know, there's some artists, like, think about it. There's some artists who have this amazing chest voice and they don't have a falsetto. So like Jennifer Hudson doesn't really sing in falsetto very often because she has such a strong chest voice, right? And then you have somebody like a Robin Thicke who sings in falsetto a lot, but he's not going to, or Maxwell as well. They don't use as much of their chest. It's a lot of head voice and falsetto, right? So it's like the idea of balancing and trying to do a little bit of everything. Chaney did what? Yeah, remember, look, Chaney was out quail hunting with one of his friends, and somehow the friend got shot in the face, right? It's not funny, but one of the friends got shot in the face. And literally a few days later, the friend is at a press conference, eye all swole up. I'd like to apologize for any harm I made. I'm like, what is going on here? Let me get, and I'm not putting that in the universe, never mind. Let me just say, I wouldn't have been in them same shoes responding the same way. Man. Belize gal, now you want to show up. We had a whole Janet Jackson t-shirt on for you on the last live and you were not here. I should be petty and go put on a different one, but I'll save it for the next live. But no, Belize gal said head voice. What you saying gospel from the diaphragm? Like Sister Act 2 from the diaphragm. Exactly. Let's see. Harold said he absolutely could pull a Jim Jones if he wanted to. He could have done it on January 6th. Magabots are pack of deranged psychopaths. Jesus, psychopaths, likes of this country, has never seen or has it. I don't think we've seen anything like this before, or at least in our lifetime. I'm sure there's some. I don't know. I don't even know what Andrew Johnson's followers were like, because I'm sure he definitely railed the people up when he was like, "We about to cut this Reconstruction crap." I'm sure they were riled up. And it'd be interesting. Um. Let me see. In regards to falsetto or chest voice, is it a matter of the artist preference or what they can actually do? Sometimes it's both, but people like to fall into what they're comfortable doing. I don't really have a big chest voice, so I like to fall in my falsetto for everything. Plus, like with my own music, since I make it all, I do my own stats and stuff. Background vocals tends to be a lot of head voice and falsetto, not really chest, unless it's like a big song. Like, if you're doing like a, Brownstone, I heard it through the grapevine, that's all chest and that's blending. If you do something like a Brandy, almost doesn't count. That's all head and falsetto, right? Or what Janet does with her stacking is all head, voice, and falsetto, right? You don't normally have a lot of people who do a lot of stacking with chest because it kind of starts to, depending on the song, you're like, oh, I'm good on it, right? En Vogue has one song where they really do a lot of that with it. Well, they have a few. They got a song called Damn I Want to Be Your Lover off EV3 where they're like blending with their chest voices. You can think of like Don't Let Go. That one's out of their chest versus a song like Give It Up, Turn It Loose, which is a bit more head voice falsetto. So it depends. I think head voice falsetto blending sounds better with groups versus everybody singing with the chest. Bring the chest out for the climax. I don't want to hear chest voice for 4 minutes unless it's like amazing, right? Even Whitney would balance it out. She always knew how to give just enough. She could beautifully transition into her head voice and give you these really soft, pretty, beautiful notes. So like think of a song like Run to You, how it opens, and she just, it's this very nice, soft vocal and this beautiful texture and this beautiful tone. And when it gets to the points where she has to start doing the big notes, they come. So you get just enough of everything. And so picture if instead of her singing it that way, she opened Run to You with just straight belting all the way through. It wouldn't have hit the same way. And even if she would have, she might have been able to sing the whole thing in head voice falsetto, people would have liked it, but people liked Whitney for belting, right? Think of like Tevin Campbell, Can We Talk? That's everybody's brunch song. He does the verses in head voice, but then when he gets to the vamp going into the hook, now he's singing out of his chest, right? And then the chorus is a mix of both. The bridge is all chest, and then the ad libs are all chest. So it's a good. I think a balance works. Some people like to hide in what they're comfortable with. Some people just can't do some things, and then some people can do everything. But it kind of depends on what you like. Somebody said, I feel like Beyonce uses a lot of her chest voice too, in the fast tempo, which is interesting. She used it a lot more back in the day. Like I like B-Day, right? I thought that was a fun album because I love to hear how she sounds coming out on those songs like A Green Light or what else is on that album? Sugar Mama and like Freakum Dress and those kind of songs. Like I love hearing that big voice with those brass instruments. I loved all that. But I also really like her in her pocket voice. Like one of my favorite songs she has is Superpower, and she's like in a low pocket the whole time. I love that song. And then I also like her song Blue. A lot of people hate that one. I like that one. Most songs that a parent writes to their child, I always like. So I've always liked, Isn't She Lovely? Stevie Wonder, Chrisette Michelle's Your Joy, the song she kind of sings towards her father. I love that one. The Chicks, well, they're Dixie Chicks now. They're the Chicks. They had a song called Lullaby that I don't know whose baby it was for, but it was for one of the babies. I like that one. It's just very just to hear. So I like all those kind of songs. But yeah. Joe Mario, Patty is chest, actually all three. Yeah, Patty can do all three, but she tends to focus on chest, especially in her younger years. Now she's doing a lot of falsetto because she's just gotten older. Some of the power's gone, but the tune and the key is still there. She just now does it a lot more in her falsetto. And you can have a heavier falsetto. Like there's a light one and there's a heavy one. There's one that's, you can put some weight behind it, or you can make it very airy. She still puts some weight behind her. So if you watched her perform If Only You Knew in modern times, now the big note, instead of coming out of her chest, she's doing it out of her head voice, but it still has some bottom to it, right? Or she had a really great performance. It was a some awards show, and she had a song called Two Steps Away she performed. Let me see what it was called. That was a great one where it was a good balance of chest voice with the chest range that she still has and the head voice and the falsetto. I think it was called 2 Steps Away. That was a great performance. I think it's 2 Steps Away. Yeah, 2 Steps Away. She did it at the CMT Smashing Glass event. That was a really great one. Gladys still sings a lot with her chest, but Gladys also said that one of the lessons she learned when she was young, the person told her to always stay in your pocket. Don't try to sing to the rafters or you won't have a voice when you're older. And Gladys stays in her pocket. So here she is at almost 80 and she can still hit all of her notes and sing most of her songs in the original key, which is really cool. Known Pierre, am I late? Yeah, you late because we're about to wind down, but we're happy that you're here. Belize said, I be grinding on the job. I ain't mad at you, but that's okay. I had a whole shirt just for you, Belize girl. I was like, I'm gonna troll her today. We gonna put on that. I had that shit was ready, nowhere to be found. I was like, I could have wore something else. I have not listened to Lettucey's new album yet, but she's here this week, and I want to go, but I'm trying to be responsible and stop spending money. And I just saw her maybe 6 or 7 months ago. I saw her for Mother's Day. I took my godmom. It was Kim, Music Soul Child, and Lettucey. Music Soul Child wasn't there for some reason, but it was Kim and Lettucey. Great show. So I just saw her, but she didn't get to do her full set because she had to share the stage with 2 other people. But man, I want to go. She's at MGM on Friday, and I don't need to spend any money. Like it's hard adulting, man. Tired of being responsible. I want to be reckless too. Let me make some poor choices in life. All right. Yeah, Lettucey is excellent. I love her song "I Miss You Now." I Blame You was a great one. Higher, I love that. Or High, I love that one. In the Morning, Today. She has a lot. What else does she have? Good. I thought that was a fun song. Yeah, she has some bops. I like Lettucey. Excellent. And I've never seen her sound bad live. I remember when I was at BET Honors and she did the Shaka Khan tribute. Killed it. And then I was at BET Honors again and she did the Natalie Cole tribute. This Will Be. Tore it up. And then did what's the song? Oh, I've Got Love on My Mind. Tore it up. I pray that we still have these vocalists in this new era that can still do the things that some of these other people can do vocally. Because man, I want to hear the singers. Y'all know I got my phase, but when it comes to the singing, I want to hear some singers. All right. Let's see. Brooke Smith said, Calvin, you got me feeling like I'm going to be missing out by not going to see Tamia and Joe. You need to go to that show. I'm telling you. She's talking about Tamia and Joe because I went to their show. So good. Like I said, Tamia needs her own tour anyway. Joe's my favorite, or he's one of my favorite male vocalists. If there was a voice that I wish I had Joe's voice. But Tamia was such a pleasant surprise. Like I knew the girl could sing. Like she sings on all her songs. Goes in. Like, some of my favorite Tamia songs, Between Us. It's one of my favorite. Or I'm sorry, Become Us. It's on the Between Friends album. Great song. My Last First Kiss. Leave It Smoking. Sandwich and a Soda. I'll be here all day trying to name songs from her. Be Happy. Like she has a lot of really great tracks. But anyway, to hear all that live and then to hear her push herself even further. Sometimes people will, you might record a very vocally challenging song when you perform it. You're going to hit most of the notes, but you're going to dip and dodge a few if you really don't know if it's going to come out right that night, if you don't have the energy to do it, because maybe you got to do 20 other songs. She hit every note. And then there were notes I never even heard before that she was pulling out. I'm like, she is not playing. Excellent vocalist. I'm pissed I didn't go to Jazz in the Gardens in Miami the other day because I saw the lineup they had. It was Maxwell, Fantasia, Tamia, Kirk Franklin. Did I say Fantasia? A bunch of folks. It looked like it was a great show. Am I going to J-Lo's tour? Probably not. I mean, I wouldn't mind a J-Lo performance, but like I said, I'm trying to not spend money. So if I'm going to spend money, I'm really going to spend it on people I actually want to see. But I do think J-Lo is an entertaining performer. I know she gets smoked for her voice and her music is not really the best, but I definitely think she at least puts effort into the stage show. I don't know if I would really want to go to her concert though. I don't mind when she's at the award shows and she performs because half the time, to be honest, she's better than half the other folks they put out there. When it's her and Selena Gomez and some of these other folks who are just boring on stage, I will rather sit through J-Lo because at least J-Lo gonna spin on her head a little bit. And she's gonna have a few dancers, she's gonna get some pyro, she's gonna try to hit a big note, and you get a little something. You know what I mean? Because look, y'all can clown her, but I ain't gonna lie. At halftime, her and Shakira did, they kind of tore that up. So, yeah. But yeah, like I said, J-Lo's fault, in my opinion, is that she has no musical identity. And I think that's why people have never taken her as seriously. And I think that's why she's kind of struggled for the last decade commercially with music. Excellent actress, but with music, because there's no musical identity and because she kind of just followed whatever trends were out, never really set any trends. I think she struggled to kind of build a hardcore fan base. She has a fan base, but yeah, because even like I told you, I listened to the last album. It's not bad. It just, to me, it would have worked in 2005, 2006. And I think that goes back to, again, not really having an identity musically, so you don't really know what sound to jump into. Like, you know how artists have a certain sound. Like there's certain songs you hear and you know that's definitely a Maxwell song. There's certain songs you hear and you're like, yep, that's Prince, that's Michael. People have like a distinct sound that fits them. Janet, y'all know I'm gonna throw her in the conversation. There's certain songs you're like, oh, that's very Janet-esque. I don't see that for J-Lo. There's not something that I can say, ooh, that's J-Lo, because a lot of what she had done was already done by somebody else, or kind of it mirrors what was already the trend. Right? So that's just my opinion. Hey Baby said you'll at least dance at a J-Lo concert. Maybe she'll bring out Ja. Yeah, listen, she got bops. I ain't gonna lie. Listen, she do get right. I'm gonna get right too. She does whatever you want to do, which should have been a single back in the day. I'm gonna do whatever she want to do, right? I'm real. She can skip the part with the N-word, but that's my song. Feeling So Good was a bop when it came out. I was in like 6th grade. I used to love that video because it came on MTV Jams in the morning. I told y'all Waiting for Tonight I like that one. I mean, the singles, her early singles, that run she had from about 99 to 02, that's some good music in it. It's the later stuff I wasn't really moved by, but and the thing is, it's just good marketing, good PR. They knew how to package her. So somebody said, dang, stop cooking. I'm not cooking J-Lo. I've been y'all haven't seen cooking. Y'all need to go back and look at some of them old videos I got. You want to see cooking. This is the nice version, right? She said, I had really hoped J-Lo would transition into acting and stay there. I mean, I think for her, though, she likes music. For somebody, if you do music, you never want to stop. It's always in you. So I think what works for her works for her. I would rather sit through J-Lo than a lot of these people that are pushing out here now, to be honest. Right? Somebody said Latin dance pop feels like her pocket. Yeah, when she kind of did the On the Floor, that was working. She could have stayed in that lane. I think that worked for her. Yeah. Y'all about how she can't sing. Yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, there's a lot of people I like that are not the greatest vocalists. So, now, I will say on this new album, it sounds like she's doing all of her background vocals. I think she saw y'all talking about Ashanti and Christina Milian all the time, so she sounds sick of y'all. So it sounds like it's all her. Anyway, now I know anybody who's a Mariah fan is not trying to hear none of this. Yeah, not trying to hear that. What up, Little I3D? Janet and TLC in Japan this weekend. Looks forward to YouTube footage later. Also, thank you for all you do in your hard work. Thank you. I saw Janet was doing a Hawaii show and she pulled something in her neck and had to keep performing. She was like, look, I'm letting y'all know I got a stiff neck tonight. Like, Janet is like, look, I want y'all to understand I'm about to be like 58, so y'all better come to these shows while I'm still doing them, because soon I'm gonna be staying home. I ain't coming outside no more. And I was like, oh, Janet had to do the if routine, all that neck throwing. Ouch. Like when you sleep wrong, and because I know for me, if I pull something in my neck, it's hurting for like 5 days. It's like, I don't know, after 25, everything that hurts for longer periods of time. Like, what the heck? Man. Oh, I haven't even looked at that. Have I seen the track list for Beyonce's country album? Jolene is getting covered. Okay, that'd be interesting. I haven't even looked at that today. I'll check that out. I know that's supposed to come out soon. Let me see. What tour was JLo's Janet backup? Well, she was supposed to be Janet's backup dancer for the Janet tour, but she had already landed new opportunities, and that was to be a fly girl. But she's in the That's the Way Love Goes video, and people keep thinking that's her in the You Want This video, and it's not. It's a different dancer, but they kind of look just alike. So yeah, J-Lo was with Janet right before the If video. She was rehearsing to be in the If video, but she never made it to set because she was already locked in with In Living Color. Lee's gal is trying to troll, and I'm not entertaining her tonight. Nope, you should have been here when I had the shirt on. I was ready for you. So nope, you ain't getting it tonight. Nope. All right, I'm supposed to be getting off this, y'all. Just every time I say I'm getting off, we be here for another 5 days. And I do need to get on a call for some other stuff. They're gonna cuss me out. All right. Anyway, this has been really good, y'all. I appreciate y'all for hanging with me. Like I said, if you get a chance, check out the interview I did on the other channel that I posted on my community tab. That was a fun interview. Like I said, please stay the route with all the craziness happening in the world. Don't tap out this soon because we need you all so that we can still have a country to live in. It's getting a little wild out here. But anyway, that's all. Stay safe, stay sane, mind your business so that you can age well and have a good night. I will see y'all at some point later in the week. See ya.